Good morning, friends. Now, in our second session, I am very much fortunate to introduce our learned speaker, and rather I would introduce him as our own member, right? So, Central Council member CA विशाल भाई दोषी, as he said, introduction की जरूरत नहीं है, but really speaking, he did not any introduction. Thank you very much, sir, for your giving us a valuable time. So today Vishal Bhai is going to enlighten us on definitely on our domain as a practicing chartered accountant. Without taking much more of your time, sir, I would like to call upon past convener CA Seema Mehta ji, CA Piyush Bhai, if you also please can join us to felicitate or to formally present the memento to our second speaker, Shri Vishal Bhai Doshi. Vijeta madam. Vishal Bhai, now over to you. डाउनलोड नहीं किया सर, मैं भी आज कर
Yeah, so till they download the presentation, a very good morning to everybody. I hope I'm audible till the end. Yeah, so that's fine. Even otherwise I'm audible. So काउंसिल में जाके आवाज हो जाता है बड़ा और हम भी फॉर्चुनेट हम लोग पहले नहीं पढ़े तो thanks to JB Nagar City Study Circle. Definitely this is, I would say, not just the one, but the only study circle in Mumbai where I have had the privilege and the opportunity to be here every year after year. Thanks to all the conveners who are sitting in the front row, and definitely my good friend Piyush Bhai, who has added a lot of value coming into the council. And let me be very honest that Piyush Bhai and I share a lot of bonhomie, I would say, being with a very similar I would say type of the practice setup and a very similar mindset when you are there in the council. And when we are especially talking about the technical requirements, the requirements for a practitioner and all, that is where Piyush Bhai and I, we just have to say one sentence to each other and we understand the rest, because that is the way we function our offices, and that is the way we want everybody that they should grow. So thanks once again for giving me this opportunity. And in fact, the challenge आज ऐसा है कि FRRB में जो हम लोग full day seminars कर रहे हैं, thanks to कैलाश जी, I think that is why he is not here. That वो पूरा उन्हें squeeze कर दिया कि 2 घंटे में आपको बोलना है. right? So I wish all of you good luck for being through this session. In fact, although there are additional things that I am going to cover today, is also on the AQMM version 2, which at the Center for Audit Quality Directorate we have launched last year. It has been made applicable from 1/4/25 onwards, and definitely the scope of the AQMM is now going to increase with respect to the practice units जिसको ये applicable होगा. And also when we are talking about the non-compliances that we find the common non-compliances in the financial statements, I thought that it would be apt that I can also give an overview of the Financial Report Review Board, because that is one board, that is one committee. So I am chairing that this year, as well as in the previous year, I was the chairman of the Financial Report Review Board, where we do a lot of work, but I would say that is more of the work that does not come out in the public domain because of the secrecy of the work that we do, the nature of work that we do. But I thought this is the right opportunity to at least create awareness about what the board does, because the presentation today that I'm going to take on the commonly found mistakes, the commonly found non-compliances with respect to accounting standards, with respect to Schedule 3, with respect to cargo, auditor's report. So all these things are what we have come out from the Financial Report Review Board. So my request is definitely to the study circle, the members per se, is that there are a lot of publications that we have come out with on these commonly formed errors. And आज जो भी session है, or even in a full day event, we are not able to cover each and every of those, I would say, non-compliances that has been found out as part of the FRRB. But what I would suggest personally, based on my experience, that if you can form smaller groups, see, normally देखा है that income tax होता है, GST होते हैं, उससे we have smaller groups, we have the group studies and all that goes on, but the audit assurance is one area which is typically our domain, our forte, and there we, I would say, with due respect to all, we give the minimum investment, I would say, in terms of the time, efforts, and the resources. So उसमें भी अगर, because I know Mumbai, and in one building itself you can have 20-25 chartered accountants who are present. So within the building or whatever way you feel comfortable, if you can form smaller study groups, meet every, I would say once in 15 days, 15 दिन में एक बार मिलिए, pick up 20-25 of the non-compliances that have been reported by the FRRB and just go through it कि technical उसमें क्या है, क्या mistakes है, and what is the right way forward. I think with this, it would help overall the profession, the quality of the financial statements, and that is what has always been the objective of the FRRB and the ICI. In fact, yes, we are doing a lot of these webinars we are doing. मेरे को एक feedback भी आया, sorry, seminars also and webinars also from the FRRB. In the last 1 month, we did 20 such events at various branches across the country. और एक thought ऐसा भी, एक view ऐसा भी आया था कि विशाल भाई आप ये सब जो है अगस्त में करिए, because that would be the time when the audit season would actually start coming up to September, and that would be quite relevant at that point in time. But now knowing all of us, I am not saying knowing you, but knowing all of us, अगर अगस्त में ये सारे नॉन कंप्लायंसेस लेके आते हैं तो लोग ऐसा बोलते हैं विशाल भाई छोड़ो इसको नेक्स्ट ईयर करेंगे. So that is why I believe, and thanks to the convener, exactly, that is what I'm saying, thanks to the convener, that we are doing it in the May month, I would say May, more precise, so that at least people would have some time to reflect back, do more deep dive, do more study, and at least हमारे जो टेम्पलेट्स है ऑफिस में जो चेकलिस्ट है जो मास्टर्स है वो भी हम यूज करते हैं बिफोर वी डू द एक्चुअल सर्टिफिकेशन. वी वुड हैव टाइम टू go through all these observations which are there and try to correct them to the possible, if it is possible, to ensure that the quality of the reporting from our side, at least from each one of us, it improves. So with that background, because I have been told that there would be a break after half an hour or so, right? 11:15 बजे है, तो मे भी 11:15 11:30 के बीच में सर क्या है लोगों की डिमांड आप बोलिए हुए तो 11 हाँ वही, अच्छा 11 11:15 के बीच में. Fine. So see, because like I said, theme portion है, then I'll try to fit in. I'll first then go through the AQMM, which I can finish off before the break, and then take the whole FRRB in continuation with what we do and also the observations. तो ऑडिट क्वालिटी मैच्योरिटी मॉडल ये आपके वीडियो में मैं नहीं दिखूंगा तो चलेगा ना? I'm fine for that, sir. So yeah, the AQMM ये क्या है? I'll give you some background and then we'll quickly run into the details. When we say quality, how do you benchmark? It is a very relative term, right? आज हम कहीं पे भी जाते हैं कुछ भी देखते हैं, we say इसकी क्वालिटी अच्छी है, इसकी क्वालिटी अच्छी है, ये बढ़िया है. But what is the benchmark? How do you compare? Is there anything that you can say that X or even a product or a service, anything? And I know that whenever somebody अभी तो काफी stable हो गया, but even 10 years back किसी को नया वो SIM लेना था, वो पूछते थे कौन सा नेटवर्क लेते, कौन सा अच्छा है, right? Now जो यूज करता है उसका pros and cons होते हैं, and ultimately nobody is able to decide which is the best. So same thing comes when we talk of audit quality. When I say that one firm is better than the other, how do you guess that? How do you take that? On what parameters? हमारे जो experiences है उसके basis पे भी हम बोल सकते हैं कि यहाँ पे तो ऐसा है, यहाँ पे ऐसा है. So what at the institute will try to do, because even the regulators are asking, and let me tell you why I'm taking this session. जब पहला जी ने बोला, because the CNAG, the RBI, now everybody is asking that clearly, yes, you are getting it done, that's very good, but what are the qualitative parameters by which we can measure a firm, the performance of the firm? And that is why I'm saying that maybe अभी applicable नहीं हो mandatory किसी के लिए यहाँ पे, but going forward we have to get prepared that this applicability बढ़ेगी, and maybe from the other side, the regulator side, stakeholder side, or even from a client side, this might become an important criteria for selection of a firm for the purpose of rendering audit services to them. So what we have tried to do is that we have tried to benchmark some of the criteria. एक टोटल स्कोर शीट जैसा बनाया है, ऑब्जेक्टिव क्राइटेरिया बेस्ड पूरा वर्किंग किया है. So in 2023, the version 1 was made mandatory. Last year, we revised the whole version, and this revision was necessitated by the fact that we wanted more and more small and medium practitioners to build up on the audit practice, because definitely that is an area where we all need to work upon. So that is the background of the AQMM. So about CAQT and AQMM, what we have at the Center for Audit Quality Directorate, where I'm the deputy convener this year, last 2 years I was the convener. हमारा काउंसिल में ऐसे होते रहता है, ऐसा नहीं हो कि मेरा डिमोशन होता है, I'm a convener to the deputy convener, but that happens based on rule, so I'm just clarifying. इनफैक्ट ऐसा ही हुआ लास्ट ईयर, जो डेप्यूटी कन्वीनर थे वो कन्वीनर हो गए और मैं कन्वीनर से डेप्यूटी कन्वीनर हो गया. इट्स द सेम. सो we have come on with a lot of obligations. I might have told this last time also, but when repeating is audit season already, I don't know how many of you have used, and the whole objective, let me tell you, of doing so much work at the CAQD is for you. It is for each and every member over here. अगर आप देखेंगे that we do have this analysis of modified opinion, तो क्यों करते हैं? The objective is that many times we feel that members, when they go through this publication, they realize that this is an item, this is a transaction जहाँ पे qualification आ सकता है, modification आ सकता है. And second is, मैंने वो भी देखा है, especially the small medium practitioners, that when they interact with their client, many times they are not able to convince the client कि इसमें एक modification आएगा ऐसे transaction में. Now with this publication, and let us be all, I'll be very honest that we don't have the time, the resources के सारे publication को हम देखें कि भाई कहाँ पे क्या modification, क्या qualification आया है, कौन से साल में आया. So that is why this publication becomes important, where we have classified industry-wise क्या modifications है to help you that to identify areas where qualifications can come. Second, to use that to convince your client that a qualification can come. And third, to help you in drafting the qualification. बहुत बार language में हम लोग अटक जाते हैं कि क्या लिखना है, नहीं लिखना है, because most of us would never have qualified a lawyer before, right? So we at times get stuck, what to use, how to write. So these publications can help you giving some guidance कि ये ऐसा हो सकता है. Again, like I said, these are the things that you can have sessions and sessions, but unless you yourself download this and read through it, go through it once, its utility is finally in that. We'll come out with a firm manual, modern reference again. कि आपके firm में some SOPs have to be there. See, when we go to our clients, right, for many of the things, they have some standard operating procedures, they have some policies, they have some practices and all. And when we have given suggested templates, आप क्या use कर सकते हो आपके format going forward. And significantly, a lot of tools and utilities last time मैंने यहाँ पे demo भी दिया था of I think most of them. How many of you have started using that engagement letter utility CAQ का? 4 ही. इससे ज्यादा तो टाइम मैंने लास्ट टाइम इन्वेस्ट किया था दिखाने में. एटलीस्ट जितनी मिनट मैंने बोला था उतने लोग तो होने चाहिए यहाँ. So friend, I tell you, this is a very important and maybe to आप जो use कर रहे हो, you can only I'm not here to market the thing. I'm just saying कि ये आपके लिए ही है. Please download them and ensure that March 25 audit जो है, you do not start any audit without an engagement letter being generated and signed off by both the parties. Take a vow, take an oath. तभी होगा, right? So all these are there. And there are other initiatives also that we take at the CAQ. This is the history of the Center of Audit Quality Directorate as well as the AQMM. So I'll just skip that. Yeah, so nonetheless, then I'll carry on. So हमने क्या किया है? We have divided the whole model 600 mark का बनाया है. Audit quality maturity model total is 600 marks. We have divided that into 3 sections. So the first section the practice management, audit assurance services related practice management related क्या क्या है? उसके there are 370 marks out of 600 that is there. The second section is the human resource. See, in our offices, if you look at our own balance sheet, the biggest asset which sits is the human resource. Our plant and machinery are the human resources, right? And therefore that becomes a very important aspect in our firm growing. The stability, the continuity of human resources is important. So that is the second section that we have given. And the third section is on the digital competency. Technology की हम लोग इतनी बात करते हैं, but to what extent our firms are geared up in digitizing our processes or some very basic things on the digital map, digital model, क्या है? उस पे there are 80 marks, right? Out of 600, 3. So out of 600, 370 are on the practice management, 150 are on the human resource, and the third section is on digital competency. This is the version 2. This was what was there in the version 1, but now we have revamped the whole audit quality maturity model. So what do you have as resources? I'm going back a bit. So you have the audit quality maturity model, which is there. We have also come out with an implementation guide for the AQMM. Whenever you want to implement, you can implement that. And third is an Excel utility again. कि आप उसी में scoring करके you can evaluate, you self calculate where all the marks up to the award were and what is the level of maturity of your firm as far as the audit service is concerned. So that is there. Now what we have kept in the new version 2 is that in each of the section, 30% is the minimum marks that you have to score. जैसे CA exam में होता है minimum 40% तो चाहिए. Then only फिर आगे आप बढ़ सकते हो. Similarly here also, we can't forget our CA exam details, right? आज भी वो notification अभी आया था कि एग्जाम को सब स्टूडेंट से ज्यादा पेपर्स फॉरवर्ड कर रहे थे उसको, राइट? सो what we have kept is that, see, when we talk of quality, एक बेसिक बेंचमार्क इन ईच ऑफ द सेक्शन तो फॉर्म को अचीव करना चाहिए. देन ओनली इट कैन इवैल्यूएट फर्दर कि भाई मैं क्वालिटी कौन से लेवल पे या कौन से कैटेगरी में आता हूं, right? So that is where we have kept 30% for each of the sections that the firm has to score. Now what does the levels? There are 4 levels that have been classified in the AQMM, level 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 being at the lowest and 4 being the highest in terms of the quality parameters. अभी इसका प्रोसेस कैसे होता है बिफोर वी जंप इनटू द लेवल. सो दिस इज अ सेल्फ इवैल्यूएशन टूल where each one of you can go back to your offices. Kal Monday hai, you can start working on this. You download this Excel utility, you download the publications on the AQMM and the implementation guide, and you against each criteria you put your score, right? कि इसमें ये जो practice है procedure है हमारे यहाँ पे yes and 8 mark you give yourself 8 marks, and we have even put some of the things जो ICI के regulatory provisions है, whether as a firm we are disciplined enough to follow them, apply them or not. I'll give a very simple example. Due date, right? So whether as a firm आप जो भी sign off करते हो उसके due dates in 2 days whether you are generating or not, then there is a score that is there. On the minimum recommended scale of fees, that is what percentage of your audit clients, stat audit and tax audit clients, you actually follow the minimum recommended scale of fees. If you follow 100%, nothing better than that, then in the model, you will be recognized accordingly, your score to be of that stature as far as that particular criteria is concerned. Right, so all these things are there. आपके resource planning आप करते हो कि नहीं? See, these are important aspects we may not be doing presently, but these are all important aspects because again, how do you quote your fees? If you're not doing your resource planning, how do you quote your fee? How do you ensure that the right people are going for the right assignment? I am not saying that we need to have a team of 100 people or उसको ही apply होगा. If you are looking forward to grow your practice to 100 people, these are some of the very basic things. See, हम लोग अपने clients को भी बोलते हैं, आज कोई नया company या कुछ setup करते हैं, we give them a vision that tomorrow you become a 100 crore company. Then these are the policies, practices, controls, and all that you need to put in place today so that in your journey to grow and reach that 100 crore of turnover, this would become very important and help you reach there. So similar thing is for our practice also. That most of these aspects are such. मैं एक simple question पूछता हूँ, like engagement letter का पूछा. You know, I'm very fond of asking question. जिसके answer पता है फिर भी मैं पूछता हूँ. कि how many of us actually give appointment letters to our employees? So at least engagement letters is a अच्छा response. So we have at least about 15-20. How many of us have documented policies with respect to the HR, the leave, the work hours, and all those things, documented policies? So another 8-10. बाकी लोगों को मैं इसलिए बोलता हूँ, see what happens. Let us imagine that if we do not have documented policies and in place, for every time that a person in our office needs a leave or wants to go, they will approach us. Why? Documented नहीं है कुछ. अभी आप सोचो साल में हमारे कितना टाइम जाता है just to ensure that a person लीव देना है नहीं देना है एलिजिबल है नहीं है उसमें हमारे कितना आवर्स जाते हैं. And hours, let me tell you friends, I have always been on this that it's not just that you interact for 5 minutes, right? उसके 10 मिनट पहले और 10 मिनट बाद में भी to get that focus back on the work you are doing, that is the हम लोग को costing का paper इतना पास किए, right? So when we put that, how much time would it need to actually have a documented HR policy? 1 day, 2 days? And आप सोचिए कि once that is put in place, you have to tell your person that as per this policy, whatever is there, you are eligible. जो holidays है, I don't have to come on, you know, on 10th of August and say 15th August is a holiday. वो पहले से पूरे साल का decide होकर छप जाता है. See, these are small things, but for a practice, if you look at the time and efforts that we indulge in on a day-to-day work, हम लोग कहीं पे गए हैं, वो शादी में जाते हैं तो भी वो ऑफिस से फोन आता है, सर मेरे को कल छुट्टी चाहिए. Right? So see, to avoid all these things, you might feel that I'm talking about what is there in the large firm. That is not the case. From small to large, if you want to become, these are the steps that you have to put in place. So these are the level of the firm. So if you score, when you do a self-evaluation, if you score from 30% to 50%, you are at a level 1 firm. मतलब अब बहुत nascent stage में हो, initial stage में हो, that is a lot of work that you have to do to move up the ladder. That is what is the indication of the level 1. Level 2 firm, 50% to 70% आपके score है, which means that you have made some progress, but अभी picture बाकी है, right? Then you have the third slab, which is 70 to 85%, which is a level 3 firm. And finally, you have a level 4 from 85% to 100% जो है, that becomes a level 4. Now ये कहाँ पे पता चलेगा? So this as a part of your peer review process, आपके वहाँ पे जब peer review के लिए आते हैं, if you want to do a self evaluation, if you want your firm to get rated and scored, then as a part of the peer review process, you can get your AQMM review done. So पहले आपको self evaluation करना पड़ेगा 600 के सामने, you give your marking, you prepare all the evidence and the documentations that are available with you in support of the marks that you have given for yourself. When the peer reviewer comes, he or she will evaluate the scores that you have given to yourself, और उसके basis पे आपका level of the firm final होगा. It will go to the peer review board. They will also take cognizance of that. And peer review के website पे जो list of peer reviewed firms है, उसमें अगर आप देखेंगे you download at least there is one column which is there on the AQMM level. तो वहां पे level 1, 2, 3, 4 जो भी है वो वहां पे print होगा. So it is available in public domain. In fact, we have now moving next council meeting we are coming where on the PRB portal itself, PRB portal page, level wise the firm height, that level 1, when somebody clicks on that, then the whole list of firms with the cities and all will be available. Level 2 firm, 3, 4 and why and how is the relevance? When I bola C&AG is after us, RBI is after us, maybe going forward banks would say that any of their clients, borrowers, 50 crore के ऊपर limit है, they should be audited with just a level 4 form. I don't see that day far. So that is why मैं आज इसलिए बोल रहा हूँ, not कि हमारे पास बहुत time है, but when you begin this journey, when you do a self evaluation, you will find. I'm just saying, hypothetically, कि 600 में से 150 मिले. So 150 से 300 जाना is a process. It's not that I say that अगले 2 दिन में I'll reach the next level. Right? Because if I say that UDs, I'm just giving an example. So UDs अगर past में you have not been disciplined enough, तो वो discipline दिखाने के लिए 2 साल का आपको UDs generate करने पड़ेंगे. तब तो वो discipline आप demonstrate कर पाओगे and you will be able to add to your scores. So whatever you start today, it's a journey. It might take 2 years or 3 years for you to improve your levels and the scores also. Right? So that is why this discussion we are doing today, that you do a self-evaluation next week, get together, find out whatever are the limitations. किसी के पास already formats, and there were so many who said that yes, we do have HR policies, we do have appointment letters. Try to request them if they can share with you, and you can do the necessary modifications. And in fact, हमारा जो form manual जो मैंने दिखाया था as a CAQD publication, उसमें ये बहुत कुछ we have already given as what should be your HR policy, what should be some of the firm related policies we've already given them. So you can pick that up, वो भी Word file में, make changes to suit your requirement and start implementing all of them. So अभी applicable किसको है? From the practice units perspective, अभी AQMM applicable to those firms which are doing audit of listed companies. उनको mandatory है ये, who are doing audit of banks other than cooperative banks. So these are the central auditors, not the branch auditors. And third is who are doing audits of insurance companies. So in सबको अभी AQMM is mandatory, but we are bringing this provision कि voluntarily अगर किसी को कराना है, as along with the peer review, then they can get it done. You know, just to empower that all of us might not be following this criteria, but still we want to improve ourselves to showcase our qualitative content as far as the assurance service is concerned. And therefore, we said that let us make it open that voluntarily किसी को कराना है, so they can get the AQMM review done, but that would happen along with the peer review. So these are some transitional provisions. So I'll just take ये क्या-क्या है इसमें. I'll not go through I have the full presentation. इसमें each and every point is covered, but we don't have that in today's agenda. So ये जो 370 है. So this is the breakup about the practice area, workflow, practice manuals, service delivery, effort monitoring. मतलब आप budget करते हो कि भाई किस कौन से client में कितना hours जाएंगे, कितना क्या budget होगा, उसके सामने actuals क्या हो रहे हैं, what are the variations, quality control है, client sensitization है, whether communication with those charged with governance, जो important points client के साथ communicate करते हैं, whether we are doing that or not. Regulatory compliance, you see, this is where there are 55 marks. This is where I was talking about the the minimum recommended scale of fees. अगर आप मैं तो ऐसा सोचता हूँ client के लिए भी, from a client's perspective, you can say that this AQMM has become mandatory and we need to charge the minimum recommended scale of fees. Right? If all of us collectively start doing that, definitely the level of fees will increase और अपना AQMM score will also increase. दोनों काम साथ में हो जाए. Right? So then you have practice management, strategic, functional, infrastructure, physical, कितने branches है आपके क्या है? You have the practice credentials about the peer review, कितने cycles हुए, and just see 230 marks we have given for the presence and implementation of formats, checklists, and templates in the office. 230 marks. So in that, what we have done is we have listed out 40 formats. तो अगर आपके पास format है, checklist है, template है, जो भी है, अगर you have those, then you get one mark for it. If you are able to demonstrate to उसको हम implement करते हैं as part of my audit practice, at least the top 20 clients you are able to demonstrate, then you get more score for them. Because these formats checklists would also ensure you are complying with the accounting standards, you are complying with the auditing standards, and ensuring that अभी materiality है, engagement letter, see all these are forming part of these format checklists. But what we wanted is that at a small medium practitioner level, those 2 to 3 marks also if they get by implementing each format checklist, and they are able to elevate. Ultimately, it's the practice which is going to grow and make be more standardized, right? So we have 230 marks for that. So I'll jump through that, but I'm just giving, there are graded points also in some of the criteria is there. So it's not like zero or so nothing or everything जैसा नहीं है. We have also tried to build in graded marks that for the firms to see that they keep growing. So I'll jump that, move straight to the overview of ये जो है फॉर्मेट वाला जो सेक्शन है 230 मार्क का. I'll just take a couple of things. Client acceptance, continuation of appointment formalities, you have 1 mark for the presence of that document. और ये सारे documents institute के है available. You go to the AASB auditing and assurance standard board. Last year where I was the vice chair, we have come out with a whole book on working paper templates. पूरा publication है उससे. And most of these you will get from there. It's just that you have to pick that up and see to it that you implement that in all your clients. It's as simple as that, right? So you have उसके लिए 1 mark, and if you implement that, you get another 2 marks, totaling 3. Now you have confidentiality undertakings, independence confirmation, engagement letter, 1 plus 5, 6 marks are there, right? So ऐसे ही पूरे the list is there. And we didn't want to end at 40. So overall, then we have given that इससे ज़्यादा आप करो, you are most welcome to do more. We have given additional 10 documents, checklists, templates अगर आप use करते हो, तो 10 plus another 20 marks for its implementation, 30 marks वो है, and another 15 marks we have given. कि अगर आप ये सारे जो भी checklists अभी आप use करते हो, उसको annually update करना is also important, because you can't have a checklist or a format which is 10 years back. और उसका accounting standards में change हुए and you are still continuing that, then you don't get the points of that. So you have to regularly update and upgrade that also. तो उसके भी 15 marks. So it's a, I would say, gold mine for all of us that if we are able to go through this, implement this, तो आप सोचो 600 में से almost 40%, 230 marks आपके इसी में you are able to score if you are able to implement all of them in all your assignments. Moving on to the human resource, again just the summary of it. So you have the human resource के policies और practices क्या है, उसके लिए you have 21 marks. Your resource planning and monitoring, you have another 12 marks. Employee training and development, 52 marks. Very important for us, like we said, it's the human resource, it's the knowledge of the human resource which is so important in the services that we render. Right? So उसके लिए what are we doing, whether we have adequate training and development programs or not, 52 marks. Resources turnover, and see, एक मैं simple बोलता हूँ, forget AQMM. Let's look at from a different perspective that there are 100 firms in your JV. Now there are 5 firms who are following this and they have a regular training schedule, a knowledge upgradation schedule. Would not article students and employees be more interested in joining those 5 firms than from the other which are there? होगा कि नहीं होगा? Yes. होगा. So will that not, having a simple policy and implemented that policy, would it not attract good talent? आज क्या होता है? because there is a dearth of resources and we don't have such practices in our firm, we have to go around looking for people. And I know recording, but let's be very honest that whosoever we get, we say to me, but once you have all these things, you are showing yourself as a boutique firm where you have all these things, and these things, let me tell you, friends, these things once they are implemented, they spread like wildfire everywhere. राइट सबको पता है अगर ये फॉर्म में आप 5 जन को ट्रेन करो ना तो 50 जन को पता चल जाता है कि यहाँ पर ट्रेनिंग मिलता है अच्छा एवरी सैटरडे दे स्पेंड 1 आवर ऑन दिस और 2 आवर्स ऑन दिस हमको सेमिनार्स में भेजते हैं यहाँ भेजते हैं वहाँ भेजते हैं सी दीस आर स्मॉल स्मॉल थिंग्स उसमें अपना भी बेनिफिट है दैट हमारा टाइम कम जाएगा ये सब कुछ सिखाने में वो सीख के आएंगे तो दे विल बी एबल टू इम्प्लीमेंट इट बेटर या कभी हमको भी सिखा देंगे कुछ. Right, so these are there are I would say intangible gains also that we have tried to attach with this AQMM. कि आप जैसे ही improve करेंगे those areas where you don't have certain elements, then automatically you will also grow and the practice will also grow. Qualification skill set of employees 28 marks and performance evaluation measures carried by the form 16. So see again a small thing that annual appraisals, salary increases every year it is done. Now how it is done? Do we have standards? या कोई अच्छा लगता है अच्छा ये अच्छा है इसको इतना 20% दे दो नहीं ये ठीक नहीं कर रहा है 15% दो इसको तो देना ही नहीं. See, these are all arbitrary things, but once you have it as a process, definitely the people also, and I tell you sharing my experience also that where you have a roadmap for an employee who has joined, अगर उसको आपके फॉर्म से let us say he or she wants feels that 10 साल की मैं I am ready to continue in this firm. But do we have the roadmap at 10 साल के बाद where that person would be? See, the moment you have all these things in place, there will be a lot of clarity and retention of people will be much more easier than what is presently. And the last section, long list is there on the digital competency. बहुत लंबा है, but छोटे points है where we have said that we don't want to, give too many marks in a particular, I would say, section. But at the same time, we wanted to cover a lot of small aspects on the digital competency, which can be easier for the firms to implement and therefore score 80 marks ही है, but इसमें भी like I said 30% is mandatory तो 24 तो score करना ही है to be eligible to move forward and get evaluated in the self appraisal. So this is what is there about the AQMM. मैंने बोला Excel tool भी है, implementation guide भी है. In case you have any questions before we break, and then we will have the longer session on the FRRB and the commonly formed non-compliance. So any questions on this? How many of you feel that yes, एक बार try लगाते हैं इसमें? Sir, photo revision. Last year भी engagement के लिए एकदम ऊपर ही हाथ पकड़ लिया था, आज मैं depressed. No, but anything, let me be very honest, if required, I can convene, maybe after September, we can have a detailed thing on a clause by clause, और उसमें, sir, मेरी इच्छा ऐसी रहेगी, that I would want members to first do a self-evaluation. Yes. And then we should have a session. Sure. Then it will be more interactive, and for me also as a CAQD, because I was the person who was putting a lot of effort in bringing this version 2, it will be I would say a two-way communication that I will also take back a lot of inputs from the members, but self-evaluation is must. मतलब उसमें आप पहले वो condition लगाएगा कि those who want to remain present, they will have to give submit के उसका क्या level आ रहा है, उसने क्या evaluate किया है, और उसको ही आप entry करना, बाकी मत देना किसी. So conditions apply. So thanks guys. Now we will break, sir. Whatever announcement you want to do, we will continue on the journey.
Thank you, friend. Thank you, sir. Before going to break, request everyone to please come. This session is very essential and very important. Not to go home, come back and see presentation of our Vishal sir. Thank you. Have a break.
नहीं वो इसीलिए मैंने मेन सेशन बाकी रखा है.
हाँ.
सीख जाता है.
go with all
ते तुझा नाश्ता पण ते तू थांब येतो तुझा पटकन पाऊस केला ना पाऊस केला ना रेकॉर्डिंग એમાં શું થાય કે તમે 10 માર્ક માટે પાછું ચૂકવવાનું. હા. એટલે તમે ઘણું seriously છો, પણ आपको पता है. नहीं, I thought you might have left already. Thanks. अरे नहीं, पसीना रहता है इतना रुपए का. ये आज है क्या? नाश्ता है. ये बस इतना होती है. Okay.
Welcome back again, friend. I request our learned speaker to take over the mic, please, sir.
अभी नहीं दिखा हो रहा है अभी क्यों नहीं दिखा? ओवर में नहीं दिखा है।
भैया ये पीपीटी बंद कर लेना,
ये बंद कर
तो दिख नहीं रहा।
Right. So, welcome back, friends, after refreshing break, tea break, I would say. So, moving on now, our this session will be end its focus that is going to be on the FRRB, that is the financial report review board. So, since we have members still coming, I quickly give an overview about what we do as a board. How many of you know about this FRRB? That's great. So, what we do, we support regulators like the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, the insurance regulator. We have the NABARD, we have the NITI Aayog, we also support the Election Commission of India. So, उनके पास जब भी कोई भी financial जाते हैं on their process and they find a कहीं पे there can be accounting irregularities, then they refer those financial statements to us, that is the FRRB, for a detailed review on it. One thing I would like to make very clear, FRRB, we do a code review or desktop review. We do not interact with the auditors or the audit team. We do not do that. So अगर आपके कोई भी client के financial statements if they have been picked up for review, you will not come to know till the final outcome is decided. And that is where I said that FRRB थोड़ा back there, it is a regulatory wing because as a, if we see the CA Act, ICI is there to for the regulation and development of the profession of chartered accountants. is हम regulatory का काम करते हैं the FRRB. And why it's so important that why I'm sharing these things today with you is when we sign off the financial statements, especially when I look at the FRRB, the TAQRB, the Tax Audit Quality Review Board. So these are the two boards which do a audit review. When you talk of the QRB, Audit Review Board, वहाँ पे वो reviewer आपका office में आता है. वो मतलब वो पूरी file देखता है, document देखता है, ताकि रहता है आपका office में, and then the review is there. So there you do have scope of communicating, explaining why a particular disclosure is made or how things are worked out. वहाँ पे आपको scope है. When it comes to the FRRB, you do not have that. क्योंकि आपको पता ही नहीं select हुआ है, and we do not communicate also. And that is why it becomes important कि आप जो financial statement sign करते हो, they have to be self-explanatory. They have to be complete in all respect. आज आपने इन्वेंट्री को कोई पॉलिसी जो हम सेकंड लेग में देखेंगे व्हाट आर दी कॉमनली फॉर नॉन कंप्लायंसेस. So I'm not going to pick up the phone and the chair and say कि भाई जयेश भाई आपके क्लाइंट में ऐसा लिखा है तो ये ऐसा क्या है, and then I give a benefit of doubt. ऐसा कोई स्कोप है ही. And that is why it becomes pertinent, it becomes important for us that we do a proper diligence of the financial statements we sign, because if they get picked up, and like I said, हमारे scope में है कुछ financials or the type of entities we pick up, but then there are all these regulators who are sitting there. अगर कोई भी मिलता है तो they would immediately refer to us कि आप इसको देख लो इसमें क्या है, right? So that is what we do as so we do our slow motor, हम खुद का भी sample लेते हैं और regulators जो हमको refer करते हैं वो भी हम करते हैं. So what we do, so we check the compliance with the generally accepted accounting principles. We comply with the disclosure requirements. So financial statements में disclosure है, accounting standards के different laws regulations के. Let us say Schedule 3 के disclosures है. Listed company है तो SEBI LODR के है. RBI है if it is a bank or NBFC. So whether they have been met with or not, and also with the other reporting obligations that are there. So let us say NBFCs are there, and there are some other reporting. I mean, simple menu that MSME, before it got built into the Schedule 3, it was through the MSMED Act that we had to do the reporting. So other reporting obligations also, we see that whether they are being compliant with or not. So this is the whole thing that we do at the FRR. Other things we do is we come out with publications. We latest in Feb 25 when we came out with a publication on the commonly found non-compliances on the Ind AS. And see, I'll tell you, and I tell this everywhere, that people feel it is so not applicable to do. Right? But let me tell you as professionals, two things. One is that if you want to grow, Ind AS is the future. And we should start investing in that today rather than having an easy way out. कि आज नहीं है available तो छोड़ दो. We should start investing in it because that is what is the future of it. I'll give you a very simple example. Property, plant, equipment standard. वो पहले fixed assets था AS10. Now if you see it has been changed and it is, I would say 99% same as what the Ind AS 16 is there is the same as now AS10. So there is a lot of pressure on us also as a council कि आप ये दो set of standards नहीं convert करके एक ही करो. But we know how these small medium enterprises operate and small medium practitioners. But I'm telling you that don't run away from Ind AS. And therefore, that is why I said that if you form smaller groups amongst yourselves and you study even the non-compliances on the Ind AS, that is going to help you. We have an ex-handle Twitter पे है FRRB. So whenever we feel that ये हमारी meeting होती है, we feel that this is something where members will be making a mistake, we want to create awareness. एक creative बना के we post on the FRRB X handle. So those of you who are on X, अभी तो most of रहते ही है, please follow the FRRB handle so that you get regular updates also on the non-compliances which can be taken care of. We do webinar awareness programs. We have articles in the CA journal. हमारे board में कौन है? Very interesting structure for us to understand. We have central council members like me. I am the chair of the FRRB. We have government of India nominees. So सबको पता है council 40 members का है. 32 are elected, 8 are government nominees. So not nominated by the government. तो 8 में से 1 या 2 FRRB में भी रहते हैं. So there is a government regulatory oversight also that is happening on the FRRB, and we have representatives from the regulatory bodies. We do not have any co-opted members or special invitees on the FRRB. Like I said, it's a secretive work that we do because we don't want to share. if किसके हमने financials लिए हैं, किस company के लिए हैं, कौन audit firm के लिए है, and therefore we limit ourselves to. In fact, we ourselves at the board every year we sign a declaration of confidentiality, non-disclosure agreement sort of. We sign and give it to the board secretary, when we will not disclose our any such thing. The president and vice president of the institute are not there on the FRRB, and also none of the disciplinary committee members. The council member DC में होते हैं, वो भी नहीं होते. क्यों? Because we don't want to have any conflict of interest. Why? हम जब review करते हैं, the financial जो भी observations होते हैं, we categorize them into 3 levels: low, medium, and high. So low are those they typically होते हैं that can be dropped. Right? For whatever reasons, I will not go into that much of depth, but they can be dropped. Medium are those, yes, they are technical non-compliances, but not serious enough to impact the true and fair view of the financial statements. आज देखेंगे काफी ऐसा आएंगे लास्ट जो हमारे डिस्कशन में. Then in that case we issue a letter of advisory to the audit firm. ये सारे observations है and we issue a LOA that you please take care in future of this particular observations that have been noticed. And third is the edge category where they are such that they may impact the true and fair view of the financial statement, and these cases we refer to the director discipline to take action against the auditor on that. Now, तो ये एक्शन जब डायरेक्टर डिसिप्लिन में जाता है, वो प्राइमा फेसी ओपिनियन में गिल्टी करके जाता है डीसी बेंच, डिसिप्लिनरी कमिटीज. Now, disciplinary committees where the president and the vice president are the presiding officers. So that is why they are not there on the board, because just look at a situation. आज बोर्ड में कोई फाइनेंशियल डिस्कस हुआ, इन डेप्थ सारे एज ऑब्जर्वेशंस है, सब कुछ डिस्कस हुआ, एंड द बोर्ड सेज दैट यस दिस इज अ एज कैटेगरी, डायरेक्टर डिसिप्लिन को रिफर करते हैं. अभी जब वो जाता है डिसिप्लिनरी कमिटी, the person who has one of the members or more than one who has decided here is also there as a judge or as a judge. So to ensure that there is no conflict, this is a very clear cut demarcation that is done. है ना? Interesting. At council level also we ensure independence. तो हमको भी अपने फॉर्म लेवल पे देखना चाहिए. So कौन सी entities लेते हैं? Definitely all the listed entities, they come in our scope. Banks, cooperative banks, financial institutions, entities carrying on insurance business, all enterprises whose net worth is in excess of 250 crore rupees. Holding subsidiary of these entities. And the last one, very interesting, like I said, जहाँ पे भी regulators refer करते हैं, वो लेते हैं. Plus, media reports आती है where there are highlights of accounting irregularities, then we pick them up also as special cases. The latest one being Genso and Bruce. The media will take over the FRRB has selected them for a review. In the past also we've taken up Satyam, we've taken up Byju's, industry is under consideration, we're just waiting for the forensic reports and everything. So that might also be, so based on the media reports also we pick up these things कि भाई उसमें accounting irregularities है या नहीं है. So how we select? We have the Nifty 100 and the Nifty 500 index which is there. So उसमें से we pick up the companies as part of our scope selection. We on the basis of turnover network covering all major sectors of the economy. So ये जो Nifty और ये लेते हैं, we just see that all these sectors get covered. So you typically like a FMCG or pharma, IT, ITS, infra. तो ऐसे सारे जो है more or less coverage सबका हो जाता है एक साल में. That is also what we see when we do the whole sampling exercise. And cases where the letter of advisory has been sent earlier. समझिए किसी को letter of advisory I already explained what the LOA is. वो भेजा है तो उसी कंपनी के 2 साल बाद we pick up the financial statements for review that whatever we had sent whether उसका cognizance लेके apply किया है कि नहीं, correction किया है कि नहीं. So it's like a re-review you can say of a subsequent year to see कि भाई ये correction हुआ है कि नहीं हुआ. So that we picked up. And after my becoming chairman, these 4 new parameters have now been introduced. Again, quality considerations, the only objective, highly levered company, now the debt equity is very high. That now we are taking up for review, those companies we are taking up for reviews. Negative results यहाँ पे है, those we are taking up for review. Low audit fees we are taking up for review. अभी क्लाइंट को बोल देना सर रिव्यू में आ जाएगा बढ़ा दो फीस, मेरा नाम ले लेना. एंड कंपनीज अंडर आईआरपी, सो कंपनीज विच गो इनटू इंसॉल्वेंसी बट उसके प्रीसीडिंग ईयर ऑडिटर्स हैव गिवन अ क्लीन रिपोर्ट सैंपल में. तो अगेन ये सब में इट्स मोर फोकस ऑन द ऑडिटर्स रिपोर्ट पे. इतना हाईली लीवर्ड है, डेट इक्विटी इतना बड़ा है, नेगेटिव रिजल्ट, ये सब जो क्राइटेरिया है. Whether the auditors see, I tell you a very interesting thing. Maybe I believe most of you will agree. April 1st, 10-15 दिन we keep on looking कि ये Infosys TCS के results कब है. We are not interested in the result. We are interested in the auditors. बराबर. और क्या होता है, हम उसको उठाते हैं, डाउनलोड करते हैं, टीम को देते हैं, देखो ये मार्च 25 का इसके बेसिस पे कंप्लायंस करते हैं. अरे वो Infosys जिसको आप बंद करके अप्लाई नहीं कर सकते. And now why I'm saying that if you see highly levered negative results, companies under IRP, one of the important criteria is reporting of material uncertainty related to going concern. अभी वो Infosys में दिखे नहीं. तो हम सोचे कि उसने नहीं किया है तो अभी उसी को कॉपी पेस्ट करके दे दो, नहीं चलेगा. और ये सारे में इसीलिए उठाए that looking from an auditor's perspective whether those compliances are being done other than all the other things I said, whether these are, because see the moment you say you have reviewed and you report on the material uncertainty, the whole audit report and the financial statements for stakeholders give a very different perspective. And banks को जब जाएगा जिससे ऑलरेडी टू borrowings है, you say there is some material uncertainty with respect to, then definitely वो देखेगा. अगर आपने क्लीन रिपोर्ट दे दिया तो वो बोलेगा ठीक है, वो अपने हिसाब से करेगा. बट there is there about the auditor response. इसलिए आप ये copy paste करिए. I am not saying don't do it, but be very careful what we do. आज भी when we go to some of the case studies, I'll tell you यहाँ पे copy paste से क्या होगा. Right? So this is how we select. Sorry, and then special cases I said complaint cases आते हैं, regulators refer करते हैं या मीडिया रिपोर्ट से लेते हैं. So this is how we do the whole sampling every year. और this year for 25 we picked up 75 samples. Just to give you an idea, how we pick this up? So random selection, BCA, Nifty 500, the 25 CA. Previously, set advisories will pick up 5 financial statements for review. Insurance companies based on the IRD website 2. The NAC criteria highly reward 5. Negative general reserve 5. Audit fees again we picked up classified into 3 different sections of the turnover. The client का turnover. Auditor का नहीं. Right? So, उससे I tell you, there was a IFAC report, International Federation of Accountants on the audit fees. 2022 का report है, that was for the developed economies, that is Canada, US, Europe, and all those. जो वैसे इन्होंने किया turnover के basis पे, so it was coming to 0.2 something was the audit fees as compared to the turnover in those samples that's it. India में top 1000 companies का आया था. So that was around something 0.01. और ये जो हमने लिए हैं ये तो 0.00 काफी जीरो के बाद 1 2 से जाता है which we picked up for sample, right? तो ये 9 ऐसे हैं and 4 are those under IRP where previously there was no modification in the audit report. So this is how we take up the samples for our review. So आज का till 30th April मेरे आज सुबह ही मेरे updated slide आया. We have picked up total 1273 cases, out of which 21% 263 are special cases and 1010 are suo moto, covering almost the last council government. जितने भी हमने लिए 70% of the market cap, we were able to cover that in the 3 years of the last council government. I mean, what is our review? We have a 3-level review process, and this is where all of you can also contribute to the activities of the FRRB. So level 1 is the technical reviewers that we say. Qualifying criteria क्या है? That is there in the next slide. So the financial statement select होने के बाद we give it to the technical reviewer for the review. The technical reviewer पूरे financials review करके जो भी non-compliance है, they submit to the board. So that is what the TR does. Once the TR पे आ जाते हैं, then the next level is a group. See, maker checker, we also have very standard process, and I would say a very tough process that we follow. So the second level is a group. Within the city, we form groups, FRRGs बोलते हैं, of comprising of 5 members, 5 chartered accountants who are there. And the group then, जो technical reviewer के observations है with the financial statements, we share with the group. The group देखते हैं TR के observations, they agree or disagree, giving the reasons for disagreement if there are any. And plus, the group can add further observations if the TR might have missed. So that is the role of the group, the second type. The third is the board. And our office, and we have a team of people who are working on this. So वो भी देखते हैं कि TR के क्या observations से group का agreement disagreement, whether the office agrees with them or not. Group के कोई additional observations है, then they look into it whether they are right or wrong. And even at the first level, anything has been missed out, the office also adds further observations for the consideration of the board. So this is the 3-tier review process that we have in place. So if you want to be part of it, yes. As a technical reviewer, you should have minimum 7 years of experience of audit and having exposure in preparation and finalization of audit of Ind-based financial statements, and also qualified a certificate course on Ind-AS. Any one of you who qualifies these criteria is interested, you can go to the FRRB portal. वहाँ पे drop down आएगा empanel as a reviewer. Go to the empanel form, fill in your credentials, submit it online here सब कुछ. And at the back end, you'll see whether you satisfy the criteria. If yes, then we will take you as a TR. So a TR is given an honorarium of 20,000 rupees per annual report that he or she reviews. Then go to the group. Group, like I said, 5 members है, तो वहाँ पे भी आप mix bag. So the convener of a group is a board member, not a council member. Or FRRB member is the convener of the group. And then उसमें you have at least one member who has 15 years of experience. Another who has at least 7 years of experience, a third having minimum 3 years post-qualification experience, plus she has done the Ind-AS certificate course. Then we also have academician representative, but ये दो नहीं होते हैं, we fill up by these 3. These but 5 का group करते हैं, and each group member for each financial statements that they review, they get an honorarium of 7,500. And within us also we have kept a process where each TR or each group का हम evaluation करते हैं performance. Quality considerations are always there even at FRRB level. ऐसा नहीं है कि सिर्फ आपको ही बोलते हैं. We have also put this in place that each TR is evaluated, उनके क्या observations थे, क्या qualitative थे, कितना है उसका scoring आता है, and then that is how the reputation of more reviews are given to the groups and the reviewers. So this I already said there are actions, so either if non-compliance they affect true and fair view, we take action against the auditor, and also we share those observations with the regulator. See, बहुत बार members पूछते हैं सर auditor पे action होता है इस पे क्या? So we from our side we definitely give it to the regulators, companies and the Ministry of Corporate Affairs and भेजते हैं through their RD they can start taking initiating action. We give them क्या क्या observations है वो भी भेजते हैं और कौन से companies का section का non compliance हो रहा है वो भी साथ में भेजते हैं from our side. If it is a listed company, we send it to SEBI, banks or the RBI को भेजते हैं. So from our side we do communicate to take initiate the action, necessary action on the company and the management. And if it is not material, then we give a letter of advisory and also we refer to the peer review board कि whether ये firm reviewed है कि नहीं है तो आप उसको add कर दो because there are some qualitative issues that are there. I talked about AQMM version 2. तो अभी AQMM भी quality related है तो FRRB के observations है वैसे ही TFRB, NFRA, all those we have added. But yes, from the FRRB, if there is a letter of advisory that is sent to the auditor, then there is a negative marking because qualitatively there is some deficiency by which that LOA has come up, and also if there is a disciplinary case that gives adjudged, मतलब कि भाई हाँ ये guilty है, non-compliance is there, then there is a -10 for order that is there. So there is a linkage with the FRRB observation and the AQM also now. अभी score क्या है? And this is where this should be an eye opener for us. Total 1273 cases we have picked up, like I said, out of which 201 have been referred to the discipline. Plus 791 जिसमें letter of advisory है. तो total कितना हुआ? 992 out of 1273. Management में सुना था 80-20, but not to be applied like this, right? Where in 80% of the cases you have some observation, and it's only 20% where it's a clean check. I think this is where such programs would help definitely. And like I said, not just these programs, but our self-study on these matters would be very, very important. That qualitatively, see, individuals से होगा नहीं, मतलब yes, everybody will have to go to the charity begins at home. So first, I have to see how I improve my set of financial statements that I sign off. And if once each one of us starts doing that in the right earnest, definitely this 80-20 is what our objective should be as a profession. Reverse हो जाना चाहिए. Right? And we should be very conscious कि क्या कहाँ पे गड़बड़ हो रहा है. So we ourselves have also digitized the whole thing. We have a portal where we do rule-based analytics. हम भी करते हैं XBRL लेके, and we do a lot of rule-based कहाँ पे गलतियाँ आ गई है, what through automation, repository monitoring. So we also have our back office to be digitized. This was the publication I was talking about that we released in Feb 25 recently, with more than 200 non-compliances being reported from 88 financial statements. Again, though Ind AS based, but many cases those who are conversant with Ind AS would agree that there will be many observations who can relate to AS also, though they come under the Ind AS category, but they can relate to AS also. So please do use this. ये उसी पब्लिकेशन से लिया है, ग्राफिकल प्रेजेंटेशन के कौन से स्टैंडर्ड्स में कितनी परसेंटेज गलतियां मिली है. तो फॉरगेट द परसेंटेज, देखना ये है कि सारे स्टैंडर्ड में मिले. So the green ones are Ind AS, like I said, this is the third publication. ये पहले भी दो है, 21-22, and then we had the 24 publication on the Ind AS. These are on the AS, the red ones are there. So there are total 6 publications, and that is where I said, आप group बना के please start going through them. जो भी है स्टैंडर्ड वाइज या क्वेरी वाइज जो भी है ऑब्जर्वेशन 10-15 लोग मिलके if you start doing this, then we can move a step towards that, reversing that 80-20 वाला ratio. Again, this is on the AS side that we picked up. Again, यहाँ पे भी if you see AS2, और AS2 में क्या है? So I would say one of the simplest standards, but फिर भी you can say 4.7%. deficiencies normally believe. So this is the X angle. We have 536 feet so far on all these AS, Indias, Schedule 3 cargo. These are the publications that we come out with. We organize webinars, we do training programs. So if you enroll yourself as a technical reviewer or a financial report review group member, then definitely there would be a training and awareness program for you. We do awareness program with other regulators. So till now we have had 145 programs. Out in which almost 21,000 participants have been there. And let me tell you, this year has been pretty good for us. We started last 11th April was the first event we did. And today we are on 11th May. Though this is not under FRRB, but I can still say that we've had almost 20 programs in the last 30 days. And we've got very good response from there on the overall awareness that it is created. So that's on the FRRB. You can scan this QR code. Your QR code here. This will take you to the page where all those 6 publications you can find on the FRRB observations. Right. So any questions on the FRRB side?
चलो अभी पिक्चर चालू करते हैं.
So I have, मैंने जैसे बोला था, these are all PPTs made by the FRRB team only, right? So I have 4 of them. One is on Indias, which I have not taken. I'm not taking right now. Another is on one is on the Indias. This is on the AS. One is on the Schedule 3 and other provisions of Companies Act, and the 4th is on the standards on audit and CARB. Right. So depending on the time, we will try to cover all other than Indias, but नहीं होगा तो maybe you can look into it that not me, वापस तो आप मेरे को नहीं, but somebody else can take and maybe a 1.5 hour session in your next event. You can carry on with the remaining observations that are there. So yes, standard-wise है, and now we'll deep dive into some of the observations. And I'll be very honest. Last year, like I said, I was the chairman इस साल क्यों and we sit और observations आते हैं. तब एक as a member, not as a chair of FRRB, but as a member, as a this was avoidable. I will be very honest. मतलब इतने basic कहीं पे गलतियां होती है, but now you are sitting on that hot seat. Observation आया है, it has been moved up all to the level of the board, and I have to say that letter of advisory is to issue करना पड़ेगा. So some such things we also see that something are very trivial in nature, but yes, they do get carried up to the final level, and that is where we need to take care. So in this accounting policy, so इसमें आंसर भी दिया हुआ है, कोई एग्जाम नहीं है. This is more to keep everybody aware कि कहाँ पे क्या है issues. So unrealized policy, accounting policy ऐसा लिखा था, unrealized loss on outstanding derivative contracts have not been recognized in the books, considering prudence as per AS. अभी ये पूरा उल्टा है. And see why this has been picked up. Okay, now with the level of the F&O transactions happening in many of our clients, I'm not talking about CAs, वो तो पता ही है अपने को, but many of our clients, whether we are doing a mark to market, what accounting are we following? How do we ensure that correct accounting is not being done as far as the F&O is concerned? Or उसमें let me tell you friends, my experience. Futures is very easy to account for. Options is very tricky. उसमें आप AQMM कैसे डिटरमाइन करते हो या ऐसे ही कैरी फॉरवर्ड करते हो, जो पैसा दिया जो आया ब्रोकर के लेजर से मैच करते हो. How do you do? See, all those things becomes very important, and how do you treat that? अभी year end में समझिए there is a gain, then whether you are accounting for that gain or not accounting for it. If you are not accounting for gain for stuff, because then there will be a difference between the balance as per the broker's ledger and the balance as per the books. Then whether you are putting a reconciliation as part of your documentation to take it forward to next year. See, these are small things which I will touch upon, but very important first that you have to judge whether it is a loss or a gain. और उसके लिए I don't know how many of us are so well versed, but I will request the convener over here that if you can have a session on the futures and options accounting. one of the sessions that can be really helpful. And especially like I said, options में वो call put वाला जो है ना बहुत tricky हो जाता है कभी-कभी. And in fact, I myself started. And I'll be honest, I myself started doing some transaction in options just to understand how things happen. और क्या आता है broker account में कैसे आता है, loss किया option में definitely, but वो सीख गया. Right? I don't want people over here to make those losses, but at least that is a request in the cutting that on behalf of everybody, this can become an important thing, especially this March. Because the market had gone down, there would be a substantial impact in the financials. At least जहाँ पे भी audit cases में F&O के transactions आते हैं, it would have a bearing. So this is the observation that we have on the policy. Okay, see, you have to be very careful what you write as a policy. So we all agree this is a wrong policy. कि loss को recognize नहीं किया है, वो तो policy आपकी आई ही नहीं. Subsidies granted by the government for providing telecom services in rural areas are recognized as other operating income in accordance with the relevant terms and conditions of the scheme and arrangements. Now this is too general. Revenue में भी मैंने देखा है, people write that revenue recognized in accordance with contracts. आएंगे हम लोग जब AS9 पे आएंगे, but these are too general. It does not fit the requirements of the standard. So here also what the observation is that the timing of recognition of this grant is not clear from the stated policy. कि कब आप account करेंगे? वो यहाँ पे as per the conditions of scheme and arrangement. Like I said, जो छप के आता है हम उसको ही देखते हैं. We are not going to pick up the phone and say कि भाई ये scheme arrangement आपने लिखा है उसका मतलब क्या होता है? What is the timing? अच्छा चाहिए है okay. That is not never going to happen. So whatever you write finally is what we will understand and implement. So here the timing has not come, and therefore this policy only provides a means to understand the policy adopted for recognition rather than disclosing the principles that are adopted for this policy. ये सारे missing policies का list है. Over our experience at the board reviewing so many financial statements, borrowing cost नहीं होती है. See, borrowing cost, and I tell you, my interaction, I do interaction so many members, fortunate for that. वो people think that if borrowing cost is capitalized, तो ही policy देंगे. Borrowing cost है तो policy आनी चाहिए. Right? So it's not that capitalization नहीं हो रहा है, इसलिए अब नई policy देनी है. That is not the issue. If there is a borrowing cost, because see, the borrowing cost policy you mentioned that when the borrowing cost will get capitalized as a principle. So it's not that the policy comes only when capitalization happens. Valuation of inventories की policy नहीं होती है, accounting for investments की नहीं होती है. Again, many times I believe this is more of a copy paste problem that we have some benchmark of some client or same client in the last year. This year they have made an investment. So वो policy because last year नहीं थी इस साल नहीं. This is where we need to improve upon our documentation. Those who have gone to my website, you see there is a checklist of accounting standards, a very simple one pager that I have put that whether this accounting standard for this client for this year is applicable or not. वो भी अगर हम start कर देते हैं, that is how I will tell you I have improved in my office also. That at the junior level they say yes. अभी वो जैसे उस साल investments में yes आता है, तो वहीं पे trigger हो जाता है कि इसके related policy disclosure वगैरह जो है वो आए हैं कि नहीं आए, because this might not be there last year, this is there this year. So automatically that realization happens. So copy paste करिए, but also start putting some checks and balances in place also. How many of you have downloaded some of these formats from my vishalmunshi.in? Anybody? No. So please बाकी भी आप देख लीजिए, काफी कुछ है वहाँ पे मसाला, and you can use that. Employee benefits, accounting for taxes on income, ये भी एक बहुत बड़ा एरिया. People feel deferred tax is only for companies. Right? Which is technically incorrect. Deferred tax, and when we say accounting for taxes on income, it is not only a deferred tax. Even your current tax provision is a tax on income covered under AS22 and therefore has to be there in the policy. Right? कहीं पे भी कोई डाउट हो तो आप पूछ लीजिए. अभी तो सब स्टंट लग रहे हैं. Impairment of assets, again yes. सेम थिंग एज वन। ऐसा नहीं है कि इम्पेयरमेंट होता है तो ही मेरे को पॉलिसी देनी। फिक्स्ड एसेट है, प्रॉपर्टी प्लांट इक्विपमेंट है, तो इम्पेयरमेंट की पॉलिसी आनी चाहिए। Right? So don't be under that because you have PPE, the impairment would say that you are having those conditions where you would then do the testing और उसमें क्या होगा तब आप impair करेंगे, वो policy। So if you have PPE, then impairment automatically would get triggered, and that policy should be there. Provisions, contingent liabilities, contingent assets, so ये सारे list बनाए in one slide that they all should be disclosed. Provisions तो सब में ही रहेंगे। I would hardly find, maybe if you somebody is following cash basis of accounting, there may not be there. But for approval, we are talking more of the approval when we go through this whole presentation. Approval जब है, तब तो provisions तो रहेंगे। Contingent liability ऐसा नहीं है, same फंडा कि मैं contingent liability कुछ है, तो ही मेरी पॉलिसी आएगी, that is incorrect. How you will determine कि contingent liability disclosure आएगा कि नहीं, वही आपके पॉलिसी में है, and therefore the policy becomes important. See, because I tell you, when we look at from a board's perspective, वो पॉलिसी भी नहीं है, contingent liability भी नहीं है, तो एक बड़ा क्वेश्चन आता है that does this impact on true and fair भी, कि contingent liability उसने पूरा इग्नोर ही कर दिया। Understand? So great. हाँ, my favorite inventories. अभी cost formula is a requirement. You just see the different ways in which it has been reported. Somebody has said stocks of cars are valued at cost and on FIFO basis. WIP is valued at direct raw material cost and appropriate cost of this. Raw materials are valued at average cost. Work in process is valued at raw material cost. Cost of finished goods on estimated cost basis. Cost is determined by using the first in first out formula. Cost comprises all. मजा गया ना देख के। I hope nobody is able to relate. कैसा तो हम भी करते हैं। But if you are able to, I am happy that that is what this thing is for. This discussion is for. So कहीं पे cost or net realizable value whichever is lower नहीं आता, which is the basic for valuation of inventories. Right? Cost or NRV whichever is lower is not occurring, and then further it is not clear from whether all the applicable costs as per para 6 of AS2 have been considered or not. Right? Where you have the direct cost, the direct overheads, वो जो सारे हैं, वो आते हैं कि नहीं आते हैं, especially you cannot make that out whether it is there or not. Again, inventories are stated at lower cost and net realizable value. Cost is determined on weighted average only first in first out basis as considered appropriate by the company. Cost of inventories is computed on weighted average only FIFO basis. Now, cost formula as per para 16 and 26 if you look of AS2, cost formula हर एक कैटेगरी का अलग से देखते हैं। रॉ मटेरियल का क्या है, वर्क इन प्रोसेस का क्या है, फिनिश गुड्स का क्या है, स्पोर्ट्स एंड स्पेयर्स का क्या है, मतलब फर्स्ट इन फर्स्ट आउट वेटेड एवरेज। वी कैन नॉट गिव अ जेनेरिक गोला स्टेटमेंट लाइक दिस। अभी शायद आपको बैठ के हमारी दया भी आएगी तो आपको ये सब भी चलना पड़ता है, देखना पड़ता है, बट इट्स अ रेगुलेटरी फंक्शन वी हैव टू। Right, so very clearly mentioned, cost formula for respective class of inventories have not been disclosed in these cases, and therefore it is a non-compliance. Cash flow, big gray area. कितने लोग के क्लाइंट कैश फ्लो टैली कर सकते हैं, मतलब जो फाइनेंशियल्स बनाते हैं? हमारे ऑफिस में कितने लोग टैली कर सकते हैं? नहीं, टैली तो कर सकते हैं, Technically correct. Okay, and
Force that.
So in fact, again, not on my website, I have put a tool for this cash flow also. Okay, क्या elements होने चाहिए typically which we say and it's an illustrative list of the non-cash items, the adjustments that should be carried out. So maybe you can download that and use that. It's in Excel format only. तो आपके जो balance sheets बनती है आप उसी से उसको tie up करके you can have the cash flow also done. But some observations which we have come across. In the note on admin and other expenses, there is an item unrealized exchange fluctuation net. तो जो note रहता है schedule typically what we used to say earlier, उसमें we can see this line item. But cash flow में कोई adjustment नहीं है उसमें. It's unrealized, so it's a non-cash item. Adjustment आना ही चाहिए, नहीं है. That is what this observation is. Cash and bank balances, foreign currencies. Many of our clients who are into export and import, they would have that account. EEFC, क्या बोलते हैं? EEFC account होता है, they maintain. तो उसको भी convert into the INR, right? But when you have such balance in foreign currencies, there has to be an adjustment because of year end जब restate करेंगे उनको, that would be a non-cash item. Right? That exchange fluctuation, we could not find when we were going through that financial statement. There was no adjustment or reconciliation shown for the exchange rate difference here. Right? So another thing, as a part of our office checklist, it might be just 5 clients where this balance would be there. Yes, out of 100, it might be just 4 or 5 only. जहाँ पे ये होगा. And that is where I believe जितने कम होते हैं ना वहाँ गलतियाँ ज़्यादा होती हैं. Because we many times have those standard format, standard practices to review these numbers, and that is where it gets missed out. कि भाई चलो बाकी सब में ऐसा है, इसमें भी ऐसा ही करके आगे निकल जाए. But this is where the non-cash element would come in, or this disclosure of the exchange rate difference will be required. Interest net. So the cash flow very clearly says interest received and interest paid. दोनों अलग दिखाना है. So in the financial statements also it is not very clear that you can't net off, you cannot offset interest income and interest expense. Right? वर्षों पहले बहुत कुछ होता था. Now I have seen largely everybody has understood that, but when it comes to the cash flow, वो फिर भी उसको वहाँ पे net कर देते हैं. So there also we have to show as per para 30 of AS3 that cash flows from interest received and paid should be disclosed separately. One is from the investing activities and one is from the financing activities. इसलिए वो दोनों को अलग करके दिखाना है. So operating से तो निकल ही जाएगा और investing और financing में आएगा. So that adjustment we will have to do. So it is not like it is a non-cash item, but it is an adjustment required as per the requirements of the cash flow of the standard. The components of cash and cash equivalents balance sheet में जो दिखाते हैं उसमें cash in hand, cash at bank, earmark balance against LC, gratuity and superannuation, unpaid dividend account, interest accrued on fixed deposits और ये सब था in the schedule. और वो जो total balance था वो cash flow के total से भी match होता. उसमें जो last में दिखाते हैं opening cash balance, closing cash balance वो match होता. Which means in the cash flow, unpaid dividend, interest accrued, ये earmark account सारे cash flow में ले लिया. Cash flow में we can take only those which are freely available. Which is again technically incorrect that these balances matching from the balance sheet with the cash flow, that is wrong because those adjustments of these balances which are not freely available, they have to be taken out of the cash flow as the opening closing, and those movements will become a part of the cash flow statement itself and not as the part of the balances. Still on cash flow, the changes in outstanding balance of borrowings. This was in case of a bank or NBFC were disclosed under cash flow from operating activities. So the standard is very clear. Cash flow on account of borrowings in case of all enterprises. There is no exemption or any deviation that is allowed. Whether financial or non-financial enterprises should be presented as cash flow from financing activities. That is very clearly mentioned in the cash flow statement. So we cannot judge कि इसका business है borrowing का lending का तो वो ऑपरेटिंग में चला जाएगा. नो, द कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट मेक्स इट वेरी क्लियर दैट दिस हैज टू बी फ्रॉम फाइनेंसिंग एक्टिविटीज एंड शुड बी डिस्क्लोज्ड एज सच. Provision for doubtful debts, advances, return of unrealized foreign exchange, these are all non-cash items. क्या होता है, वो डेटर्स में ट्रेड रिसीवेबल्स का मूवमेंट लेते हैं तो नेट ऑफ प्रोविजंस जो है वो लेके हम लोग डाल देते हैं कैश फ्लो. एक्सेल की फॉर्मूला ही डालनी है ना, तो वो बैलेंस शीट फ्रंट पेज जो रहता है उसमें एसेट्स का ईयर वन मतलब प्रीवियस ईयर माइनस करंट ईयर करके फॉर्मूला लेके ड्रैग ड्रॉप करके डू सब आ जाता है. बट देयर आर एलिमेंट्स इनसाइड देयर व्हिच आर नॉन कैश आइटम जिसका एडजस्टमेंट्स करना पड़ता है. So for all these things they have to be adjusted. So one adjustment would come net profit जो operating activities है उसमें ये सब ऐड करना पड़ेगा और आपके ट्रेड रिसीवेबल्स का जो मूवमेंट है उसमें से भी उसको इग्नोर करना पड़ेगा. देन फिर ये आपका कैश फ्लो टैली होगा. In case of a non-financial enterprise, decrease or increase in long-term loans and advance has been adjusted as working capital changes under the head cash flow from operating activities. Further cash flows arising from the same have been shown on a net basis. So एक तो ये operating activities में दिखाया है, which is not correct. Long-term loans and advances are investing activities and therefore their cash flows should not be shown under the operating activities. और second, net basis पे नहीं दिखा सकते हैं. Receipts and payments, long-term advances के you have to show them separately on a gross basis, not on a net basis. मैं वही बोला, long term loans and advances बैलेंस शीट में क्या होता है, this minus this करके नेट करके डाल देते हैं फॉर्मूला. Right? So there are certain adjustments. तो AS3 लास्ट कब पढ़ा होगा? 5 साल में. चलो मैं make it easier the question. लास्ट 5 साल में पढ़ा होगा किसी ने? 10 साल छोड़ देते हैं. So after exam, I agree. So that is why these things, that we need to improve upon. Cash and cash equivalent as reported in the notes and do not tally with the reconciliation. Like I said, cash flow में you show the opening balance of the cash, you show the closing balance 2 साल के, उसका difference ये पूरा movement जो है वो उससे match होना चाहिए. तो ये जो closing balance वगैरह जो है in the cash flow और जो बैलेंस शीट में नोट्स में जो बैलेंस आ रहा है वो दो ही मैच नहीं हो. तो कैश फ्लो कैसे मैच हुआ, दैट इज अ क्वेश्चन बाय इटसेल्फ, राइट. बट ये दो मैच हो रहे हैं, नहीं हो रहे. सो एनी ऑफ यू यू वांट टू बी अ टीआर और एफआरआरजी, ये सब भी देखना पड़ेगा. You have to be prepared for that before you put your name up for recommendation. Fixed assets lost due to robbery. Were disclosed under cash flow from investing activities. Further, this loss has been added in determining cash flow from operations. So ये तो non-cash transaction है, and therefore this should not be there at all. अभी ये स्कोर तो कैश फ्लो के कितने थे? These are some of the samples which we have selected from all the database that we have, right? So you can imagine the कितने होंगे. So AS4 notes to accounts में company's policy is to take into account the impact of any significant event that occurs after balance sheet date but before the finalization of accounts. ऐसा note लिखा हुआ है. Now there is nothing, no concept as finalization of account under accounting standards. वो self created word, right? So the words that should have been used is that financial statements are approved by the board of directors or any corresponding approving authority. So events occurring after balance sheet date, the cutoff is that the financial statements are approved by the board of directors and not finalization of accounts. See, कभी हमको लगता है इंग्लिश बराबर है, प्रिंसिपली जो है we might feel it is correct, but वहां पे लॉजिक और प्रिंसिपल्स काम नहीं करता है. Technical content is what we have to see. And that is where I many times feel English also matters what we are writing. हम लोग day to day use करते हैं jargons and communication for easy communication, because many times we might not remember the exact technical wordings also. But when it comes to the financial statement, when it comes to sign off, we have to use the actual technical wordings that are expected. AS5. So the company is engaged in trading and exporting copper metals. Other expenses में significant amount is disclosed as manufacturing cum consultancy charges for artworks. Alright. तो observation क्या है? That this expenditure, ये जो है manufacturing cum consultancy charges for artworks ये expenses है. Amount material है, so it does not seem to be the ordinary activities of the company, because company was into trading and exporting of copper metals. Right, so there can two views. One is artworks, मतलब copper के art उसके लिए कुछ दिया है, then it would be ordinary activities. But then there was nothing of that sort which we could gauge from the financial statements, and therefore this particular item, which was a major significant amount, that should have been shown as an extraordinary item in the statement of P&L. Because if it is not relating to my ordinary activities, it is something which is extraordinary in nature. One-time settlement. और इसको क्या किया है, प्रिंसिपल, इंटरेस्ट, लीज, रेंटल चार्जेस, ये सारे जो है वेवर का था. सो द वेवर ऑफ द प्रिंसिपल अमाउंट इज क्रेडिटेड टू कैपिटल रिजर्व, एंड इंटरेस्ट एंड लीज रेंटल चार्जेस अमाउंट इज क्रेडिटेड टू अदर इनकम. सो सबसे पहले तो कैपिटल रिजर्व में जाना ही नहीं चाहिए, राइट? वी कैन नॉट पुट एनीथिंग टू कैपिटल रिजर्व. इट इज अ inability to make the payment owing to financial difficulties, and therefore it is from ordinary activities. Therefore, everything should come to the P&L. Nothing should go directly to the reserves. And further, ये one-time settlement है, right? Therefore, it has to come as an exceptional item as per para 12 of AS5. तो exceptional में भी दिखाना चाहिए. We should be something like a not regular in nature. Which should and material है, तो उसको exceptional करके we should show. बहुत बार क्या होता है, ऐसी clients feel that वो exceptional कुछ दिखा दिया या extraordinary दिखा दिया, मतलब इसका notice आ जाएगा, उसका notice आ जाएगा. You know, there is a thing that is there, but ultimately somewhere it has to get reflected, and we have to comply with the accounting standard, because otherwise what happens, my ratios, the net profit ratio or any amount before we show profit before exceptional item, see all those go for a toss, right? So we will have to explain to the client that अगर इसको exceptional नहीं दिखाएंगे ना, तो भी आपको notice आएगा, because आपके ratio in comparison to the earlier year would show a major change, and therefore it's better if you show it separately. Then at least the amounts otherwise are comparable, and this being an exceptional or an extraordinary items has to be shown separately. Construction contracts, AS7 policy में क्या लिखा था? Job work revenue is accounted on the basis of running bills raised and approved by the clients. तो ये टिपिकली हो गया कैश बेसिस, इफ यू आस्क मी, तो उसने अप्रूव किया है रनिंग बिल. सो नाउ लेट अस से हाइपोथेटिकली अ रनिंग बिल वाज रेज्ड ऑन 31st ऑफ जनवरी, फाइनेंशियल कर रहे 31st मार्च को, तो 31st जनवरी तक के जो आरए बिल्स बन गए, अप्रूव हो गए, उसको रेवेन्यू में दिखा दिया. व्हाट अबाउट द बैलेंस 2 months? So that is where this policy, or I would say the accounting itself, is incorrect. Going by the policy, that revenue as recognized on this is wrong. So the policy is not, because you have to recognize revenue and cost based on the stage of completion of the contract activity on the reporting date. Simple funda hai, AS7 and all, we have matching concept. So from 1st Feb to 31st March, there would be costs which would have got consumed in that particular contract, in that particular activity. तो जब cost मेरा P&L में जा रहा है as an expense, तो उसके corresponding revenue भी आनी चाहिए. So you might have something like a unbilled revenue or a work in process, right? I will not go into those. They are two different terms altogether. Requirements भी दोनों की अलग है, but ultimately the principles is about the matching concept. So the policy per se, and I would say the accounting also in this case, is incorrect. There has to be a policy with respect to the unbilled revenue or showing the costs as a work in process if it meets the requirements. The company engaged in the construction business includes job in progress under note on inventory, but has not made required disclosure. The disclosures क्या है? when you show under AS7, inventories में आप दिखाते हो, you have to show the aggregate amount of costs incurred and recognized profits up to the reporting date, amount of advances received and the amount of retention. Here disclosures are in many of the companies under which go under AS7. I have found these disclosures missing. कितने यहाँ पे कंस्ट्रक्शन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट क्लाइंट वाले है कोई? Yeah.
Key project. We have to follow it. It's not based on the constructions. Basically, your turnkey project is a subcontractors. So AS17 share rolling down.
Yeah, so AS7, I believe yes, turnkey projects would come under AS7. And definitely then, so that would be, I would say, not AS9, but AS7, where turnkey projects would come in. And that is where all whatever we discussed, you'll have to take cognizance of that, that the cutoff procedures with respect to the costs and the related revenue are adequately satisfied. Right? So on revenue recognition, moving to AS9. The accounting policy regarding revenue recognition stated as follows: revenue from online educational services is recognized upon receipt of subscription fees, otherwise apportioned over the subscription period. Aya income. Right? So that is wrong, incorrect, would impact the true and fair view. The subscription fee for online services should be recognized on a pro rata basis over the service period. Again, the same funda of matching concept. अगर income मेरा इस साल आ गया है, मेरे related costs are going to happen over a 1 year or a 2 year or a 3 year, depending on what the things are. In fact, इसमें है नहीं, but even becomes very important if you have clients which are, in the healthcare hospitals. क्योंकि उसमें भी बहुत कुछ ऐसा होता है, very important, very critical to look at the cut-off procedures, because क्या होता है, they have a package which would include the doctor's visits, your let us say 9 days stay in the hospital, doctor visits, some lab tests and all, medicines are there, और वो पूरा एक package होके you get the client gets the money. Let us say as on 25th of March. अभी 31st March को क्या करते हैं? I don't want answers, but please look. This is another area I have seen. My experience is that where cut-off procedures are not followed, क्योंकि वो patient ने दिया है, उसको income ले लेते हैं पूरा 31st March में, whereas there would be significant costs which would be happening post 31st of March. Then whether there also you need to apportion the revenues. ठीक है, वो patient को वापस नहीं करना है कुछ, but same going by the same funda of this, it would be applied to a lot of these service related entities which are there, when we will have to see compliance with the AS9 or the, especially I would say the cut-off procedures. Yeah.
The client is providing AMC services for CCTV and all that. So in the beginning only they receive the advance, but the services are to be provided in the whole year. So
Apportion. You will have to apportion it over the period of contract. Program. So a lot of things, even telecom. See, I would say you go through the, and this is where it becomes very interesting reading. I would say research also. Pick up a Bharti Airtel, Dish TV, where we pay subscription of 12 months, we pay for 11 months. See, all these things are there. So actually, wherever we have such curiosity, it would be very nice to pick up these financials, see what their policies are, see what their disclosures are, and that would give us a lot of insight. That whether they also, if it's over a 12-month period, there would be related costs with respect to the satellite and all those things would be over a period of 12 months. Then they would also apportion their revenues over the period of the contract.
Similar like prepaid expenses, what we are doing for expenses.
Exactly. But yes, for AMC, the apportionment over the period of the contract would be required, even if it is non-refundable. Because many times I have seen people saying that non-refundable है, आ गया अभी खत्म, मेरे को तो वापस देना ही नहीं है भाई, but so yeah, related cost, it's over a period of time that I have to render the services.
Can someone take a stand that whatever is the remaining cost, so if my margin of providing the service is say 20%. Okay, so I will only remove from my revenue 80% of the no, so I'll say it's not 1%, I've already incurred money on marketing and everything to get the client.
So see that can, because marketing and all as such, you don't apportion over a period. It would hit in the year in which the expenses are incurred, right? So वो तो cost as it is चला ही गया, some cost है. So that is where I was discussing with somebody during the break also, that under AS 26 you have to see, and all these costs are very clearly defined, they are some costs, right? So you cannot on that basis apportion your revenue, saying that these costs are already incurred, because then what would happen? Then there would be a counter argument that when I'm incurring the marketing cost, whether I can defer them over 5 years. The other side of the story. Because I'm going to get benefit over 5 years, then all these things, whether I can defer over 5 years. Now that is where my argument came, that when I was discussing, everything that we do, or not everything, most of the things would have an enduring benefit. Without quantifying, not going into materiality of amounts, I will make it very simple. आज आप लोग ये सेमिनार में आए हैं, इसका तो बेनिफिट 3 साल मिलेगा, 5 साल मिलेगा, तो क्या इसकी भी कॉस्ट हम डिफर करेंगे क्या? I'm not on the amount, not on the quantification, again on the principles. Right? So in that, so just extending what you said, that we cannot do that, the revenue portion जो है उसी को time basis पे we will have to proportion it over the periods. Dividend. Dividend is accounted as and when received. कोई टेंशन लेने नहीं. बैंक में आया, अकाउंटिंग करो, भूल जाओ, और फिर FRRB से लेटर लो. Right to receive. And again, very important, हमने सब पढ़ा है, मैं फिर भी याद करा रहा हूँ, इंटरिम और फाइनल डिविडेंड दोनों का अकाउंटिंग अलग होता है, क्योंकि दोनों का राइट टू रिसीव का पॉइंट्स अलग है. Interim dividend, when the board approves, right to receive is established. Final dividend, AQMM approve होता है, तब right to receive established. Right? So that is where this becomes important, especially 31st March, because many companies, especially I have seen the PSUs and all, who have a good dividend payout to its shareholders, major being the government of India. They prefer declaring interim dividend rather than final dividend, क्योंकि वो सितंबर तक वेट करना पड़ता है. तो वो 25 मार्च को, 26 मार्च को या ऐसे इंटरिम डिक्लेयर कर देते हैं, पे आउट अप्रैल फर्स्ट वीक में होता है, राइट? बट उसका अकाउंटिंग अपने को 31 मार्च को ले लेना पड़ेगा, बिकॉज इट इज इंटरिम डिविडेंड, बोर्ड हैज अप्रूव्ड. फाइनल डिविडेंड जो रहता है वो नोट्स में वो डिस्क्लोज करता है, बट वो AGM के टाइम वो technically I can say you can follow as and when received, because that would not be so close to the cut-off procedures. But yes, ultimately policy में मत लिख देना, क्योंकि सब मैंने बोला इसलिए मैं ये लिख रहा हूँ. But you'll have to write that as and when it is established, that is where the dividend is recognized. Revenue recognition, अलग-अलग example दिए हैं based on our experience. Revenue is recognized when no significant uncertainty as to measurability or collectability exists. In another case, revenue, income, and cost expenditure are accounted for on accrual basis. Sales are accounted for on dispatch of products. All three are. Right? They do not meet the requirements of AS9. So when the enterprise has transferred risk and reward to the buyer, वो कहीं पे नहीं आ रही है तीन. Accrual सही है, but does not satisfy the requirement of AS. Sales are accounted on dispatch of products, तो वो dispatch पे risk reward transfer हुए कि नहीं वो पता नहीं चल रहा है. So that is why all three are wrong and does not meet the requirement of AS9. The company recognized full cost of garments destroyed by fire as income under other operating income, stop loss claim based on the filed insurance claim. Insurance claim for fixed assets lost were also recognized based on the filed claims. So again, this is technically incorrect. सिर्फ फाइल करने पे आपका राइट या क्वांटिफिकेशन measurement certainty does not get established. So it does not meet the definition of revenue amount to be measurable and reasonable expectation of collection. So time of filing without addressing uncertainty in measurability is not appropriate. If you feel I'm going fast or slow, please let me know. मैं अपने gear वैसे change कर दूँगा.
Based on surveys report. Based on the surveys report.
So based on the surveys report also is not the certainty कि उतना मेरे को मिलेगा. That is a process which is there, and I've seen many cases वो survey report पे ले लेते हैं, but as per the AS9 requirement, that is also not certain कि मेरे को इतना मिलेगा. Many times what happens is that you can still take based on the provisional claim amount that is given by the insurance company. अभी आजकल इंश्योरेंस कंपनी सी लार्ज क्लेम्स में क्या होता है 50-60% पहले पैसा दे देती है पेंडिंग इवन दी होल थिंग वो सर्वे रिपोर्ट और कुछ भी पेंडिंग होता है क्लेम फाइल करने पे वो एटलीस्ट 67 so that your cash flows the business's cash flows can start spending whatever recovering the loss and all is there but from an accounting point of view that certainty has to be there.
So one more thing is.
Yeah.
In this case, GST also to be reversed since you have not realized for the business funds.
Correct.
That is also to be ensured.
Exactly. Accounting policy on revenue from advertisement and ticket sales states as follows. Revenue from sale of tickets is recognized when the tickets have been sold. ये वैसा ही केस है, but do अलग industry. Advertisement revenue is recognized when advertisements and net realization are confirmed. दोनों गलत. टिकट सेल हो गया, उसका इवेंट बाद में है. एक एयरलाइंस, रेलवेज, सिंपल थिंग्स. Right? So I'm booking my tickets for the month of April, for the month of May, maybe Feb, March. Journey तो बाद में होना है. So I cannot show that as my revenue. And similar thing with the advertisement revenue also. तो उसके related costs जब आएंगे तभी उसको आपको वो contract पे apportion करना है advertisement revenue. AS11. So we are done with 9. Now AS11. Certain foreign exchange transactions have been entered during the year. So that is what we could make out from the financial statements. But there is no disclosure regarding exchange gain or exchange loss arising of foreign exchange transaction. ये बहुत मस्त है. अरे तो बहुत सारे होंगे. See, the accounting for forex, what the standard says. जब आप सेल करते हो, I'll take a simple example of sale, where you have sold on the date of invoice, whatever is the spot rate, उस रेट से आपको सेल्स रिकॉग्नाइज करना है, राइट? एंड देन जब कलेक्शन आता है वो जो भी रेट है उस पर आपको रियलाइजेशन करके जो डिफरेंस है यू हैव टू शो एज अ फॉरेन एक्सचेंज गेन और लॉस. नाउ इस केस में फॉरेन गेन लॉस दिखाएंगे. मतलब क्या है, सेम रेट पे परचेज और सेल्स जो भी है ट्रांजैक्शन और रियलाइजेशन हैज बीन बुक्ड, राइट? दैट इज वेयर एंड आई हैव सीन कि बहुत बार वो कैलकुलेशन नहीं करना पड़ता है एक्सचेंज गेन लॉस एंड पीपल स्पेशली अभी तो ऑडिट ट्रेल और सब आ गया है बट पीपल हैव सीन कि वो जो रियलाइजेशन जो आता है उसी में पीछे जाके वो परचेज या सेल का वो चेंज करके बोल देते कि अभी सामने सामने डेटर्स क्रेडिटर जीरो हो गया मेरा एंड balance is nil, so nothing, no exchange gain or loss. That is not what the technical requirements of the standards are. You have to book the original transaction on the spot rate and at the year end either do the exchange gain loss or even on the realization there would be an exchange gain loss. And even on the balance sheet date अगर आप restate करते हो तो subsequent realization पे भी exchange gain loss जो होता है उसको आपको करना है. Accounting policy again on AS11, current assets and liabilities at the year end are translated at the exchange rate prevailing on the balance sheet date. Again, a big thing, a very common thing I would say. We don't distinguish between monetary, non-monetary. Foreign exchange है, outstanding है, करो. No. Only monetary assets and liabilities are to be converted. Monetary मतलब क्या? जिसका कैश और कैश इक्विवेलेंट अपने को मिलना है या देना है. Now I'll give a very simple example. Advances. Purchase के लिए एडवांस दिए हैं. That is outstanding. अभी वो जो एडवांस मैंने दिए हैं फॉरेन सप्लायर को, उससे मेरे को कैश आना है या मटेरियल आना है, तो उसका रीस्टेटमेंट होना चाहिए. फिर भी करते हैं. Right? So for my suggestion is from an accounting point also as an auditor, जो भी year end balances है foreign currency के, see कि उसके सामने क्या आना है या देना है. If it is non-monetary, it will be carried at whatever value it is. उसका restatement नहीं होगा year end पे, और definitely monetary का होगा. So that distinguishment or distinction between monetary non-monetary is mandatory. So that is what this say. ये तो policy गलत है. मतलब जो किया होगा वही पॉलिसी में लिखा है, तो भी प्रिज्यूम के जो किया है वो गलत है. राइट? तो वो जैसा आप सही करेंगे तो पॉलिसी भी सही आती है. Again on AS11, foreign currency transactions states that foreign currency monetary items have been recognized at contracted rates as those are covered by forward contracts. Now there are two observations. अगर forward contracts है, तो forward contracts are independent of the underlying contract. So anybody over here जिसके client forward contracts वगैरह करते हैं, तो वो दो independent. There is an underlying which is there, but that does not get connected कि आप उसको net करके आप पूरा accounting करो exchange gain loss का. दोनों का accounting for the year end exchange gain loss would be different. Mark to market होगा एक का और एक का restatement होगा, तो वो दोनों अलग होगा, and therefore they cannot be netted off. जिसमें जैसे लिखा have been recognized as those are covered by forward contract. You know, the contracted date पे ही ले लिया, irrespective of what the year end exchange rate was, right? So that is the error. And second, monetary items should have been recognized as the closing exchange rate irrespective of the fact that ये hedging किया है, right? So that is what is the observation. Accounting policy for foreign currency transactions of monetary items only has been disclosed. So the observation is that classification monetary non-monetary का होना चाहिए, but non-monetary items की भी जो policy है, such as investments in equity shares, inventory, fixed assets, was not disclosed. So if you look at a good policy, और अभी see I'll tell you challenge क्या आता है कि public domain में listed company का accounts मिलते हैं जो सब Ind AS पे. तो ये AS वाली जो policies है, you will have to go 10 years back and find out from again the same Infosys TCS, right before 2016. I believe that was when Ind AS came. उन्होंने पहले भी कर दिया होगा, but AS वाली policies लेनी है वहाँ से. So, but you will have to very clearly mention कि non-monetary का accounting कैसे होता है और so non-monetary, monetary आपको restate नहीं करना है, but policy तो दोनों की देनी है. AS13 accounting for investments. The company has made long-term investments in the equity share capital of its subsidiary. The director's report of the subsidiary indicates that its net worth has been fully eroded and there is no scope for any business. But provision for diminishing value of investment जो है नहीं हुआ है. Right? Rare case है. यहाँ पे I don't think so to a majority this such things would be applicable. But yes, if you have to look for those investments where there are subsidiaries and all. So current investments have been classified as quoted investment, but उसका market value नहीं दिया है, which is a requirement as per the AS13 that you have to carry at cost, but उसका market value का disclosure भी देना है. Employee benefits. Again, a big gray area on the recognition measurement that we have. the amount of expense for defined contribution was not disclosed by the enterprises. So here disclosure है, provident fund या जो भी है. So though you have made the payment, the company has made the payment, your client has made the payment, but उसका disclosure requirement है where in the notes you have to say कि towards the defined contribution plans साल में कितना खर्चा होगा, खर्चा किया है, that has to come as a separate disclosure. The defined benefit obligations are determined using the services of qualified actuary. Very good. But वो PUCM use किया है, नहीं किया है, वो कहीं पे कुछ disclosure नहीं दिया है. So these are incomplete disclosures which have been given. So you can't go on an assumption कि actuary के पास करवाया है, तो you have to assume कि PUCM किया होगा, but वो लिखना भी पड़ेगा. Right? So the PUCM should be followed and accordingly should be explicitly mentioned in the accounting policy on employee benefit. Termination benefit VRS जब payment होता है तब करते हैं. Again, that is incorrect. You have to provide for the VRS expenses based on the approval basis, and that provision was not there, so it cannot be done on the payment basis. Again, employee benefit annual contributions in respect of PF are made to LIC and are accounted at that time. So again, this is wrong because जो भी contribution, जो भी payment किया है, whether there is an asset, liability, excess है, shortfall है, क्या है, उसका detail में accounting has to be done. You can't just say कि मैंने जो pay किया वो खर्चा कर दिया, debit कर दिया, that is okay. So that is what is the observation that for a defined contribution plan and not the basis of contribution made to the LIC. So it does not clarify what should be recognized as an asset or a liability. Accounting policy on employee benefit, and in many cases the disclosure required by para were not given or partially given by enterprises. So this is the general observation that we have found that in majority of the cases. So para 120 काफी detailed disclosure है. Again we have to see, we have to make sure. I will just like to highlight that leave encashment and gratuity, right? ये दोनों का reporting अलग है. Gratuity का पूरे details देने हैं. Actually report में भी जाता है, मतलब define the DBO benefit obligation, the plan assets, the cost during the year, and all those things we have to give. As far as leave encashment is concerned, this disclosure is not required to be given in case of leave encashment. And though you might be doing an actual valuation for both, but disclosure is required for the gratuity and not for leave encashment. मतलब over disclosure भी नहीं देना है if it is not required. Borrowing costs, secured loans. So there was a note that on secured loans that reflects a certain borrowing cost has been incurred, a portion of which was capitalized to the value of fixed asset and rest of the portion was expense. So although the company has capitalized a significant portion, but the accounting policy adopted for borrowing cost has not been disclosed. So this we disclosed earlier, हमने पहले भी discuss किया कि borrowing cost की जो accounting policy है, उसको आपको disclose. So once there is a finance cost, borrowing cost की policy आएगी. Different companies are found to be treating debt restructuring charges, ECBs, upfront fees. जहाँ पे भी कभी भी we've seen also that debts change भी होते हैं, right, from one bank to the other bank के वो जहाँ पे conditions beneficial होते हैं, and then the bank जहाँ से transfer हो रहे, they charge some upfront fees to compensate them for the losses. So all these costs बहुत अलग-अलग type के होते हैं, but very related. So इसमें जो हुआ था, it was mentioned that these costs were written off over the tenure of the fresh loans taken for financing. So there is no such provision in AS16. It is not a qualifying asset. Loan तो already ले दिया है. So these costs they have to be expensed off during the year. You cannot amortize. There is no such provision under AS16 of amortizing these costs where there is a debt restructuring or ECB के borrowing के charges लिए या you change from one bank to the other, and there are some one-time payments that are required during this change. तो ये सारे को P&L में ही जाएगा. There is nothing like an amortization that is possible. Inventories में borrowing cost capitalized किया, interest. ये policy में लिखा है. Finished goods are valued at lower of cost और NRV includes depreciation interest, excluding interest or discounting of bills. Now, typically under AS2, you cannot capitalize, right? Unless there is a qualifying asset, like we say in case of a real estate company, where the cost of what I would say, the working capital cycle typically would be more than 1 year, or it would be have a higher gestation period. In such cases, you can capitalize, which is allowed, but not in all cases. So this you have to make sure, because again, this can be a problem of a copy paste. Right? कोई भी कंपनी में से लिया होगा जहां पे बोरिंग कॉस्ट या मे बी सम इंफ्रा कंपनी और सच थिंग व्हिच वुड बी देयर, और उसमें से इन्वेंटरी का पॉलिसी अच्छा लगा तो ला डाल दिया बोरिंग कॉस्ट का एंड इन्वेंटरी का, बट देन टेक्निकली इट इज नॉट राइट. Borrowing costs that are directly attributed to the acquisition of assets are necessary till the date it is put to use. Again, wrong. Put to use फंडा है इनकम टैक्स, तो ये फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स इनकम टैक्स के लिए नहीं बन रहे, राइट? इवन दो, because I have heard this argument many times, because हम तो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स बनाते हैं because of the tax. I have heard that. So, but they do not become tax financial statements. Financial statements will still have to follow accounting standards. Right? And that is where you will have to see that whether all the activities required to prepare the asset for its intended use are complete. Yes, borrowing cost तभी तक आएगा, उसके बाद आपका P&L में चला जाए. And that is where I tell you, there's a huge gap between AS 16 and, pardon me if I'm wrong, but ICDS 9. Borrowing cost वाला कौन सा है नंबर ICDS का? जो भी है नंबर, टोटल 10 है मेरे को पता है, बट आई बिलीव 9 ही है शायद. But उसमें there are major differences even in the definition of a qualifying asset, the way the computation is done for the capitalization of the borrowing costs as per ICDS vis-a-vis AS 16. And my experience says that in a majority of the cases, ICDS adjustment आएगा ही आएगा borrowing cost capitalization जहाँ कर रहे हैं. So please ensure this, that don't say, don't जैसे मतलब सी AS अपने को पता है, ICDS nobody remembers the numbers also, 10 ही है, फिर भी nobody was able to share with me. But what I'm saying is go through ICDS 9. I have seen in a large number of our clients, especially जहाँ पे capitalization होता है. See, if I have a normal working capital or a OD limit, वहाँ पे कोई impact नहीं आएगा. But the moment I go into a term loan or a big capex loan, adjustments under income tax ICDS, and I'm more concerned where we are doing as a tax auditor, where it is our responsibility also to certify those numbers under ICDS deviations. Please take care of it. But this policy will not change as per ICDS. ये तो जो policy है as per AS वही रहेगी. Segment accounting policy नहीं लिखते हैं, तो there we will have to ensure that there is a company, even if it does not have more than one business segment or more than one geographical segment, the fact that there is only one business segment will still have to be stated. Right? बहुत कम में आएगा segment reporting, so I'm just running through that. Significant difference between जो P&L में जो numbers रहते हैं, profit after tax, total assets, total liabilities और segment total में जो रहते हैं, ये दोनों में there was a mismatch. Again on segment, one of the notes states that it's primarily engaged in the segment of iron and steel. Both sales states that sales comprise both export and domestic, which are significant. So दो business segment एक ही है, iron and steel. Geographical segment, domestic export दोनों है, जिसके the risk and rewards are different, and therefore those geographical segments will still have to be disclosed under AS 17. Related party, again a big gray area that we have found that we need to all improve upon. So certain transactions have been reported with X Limited, but there is no disclosure or disclosure with the relationship. Table में रहता है कि इसके साथ transactions हुए हैं, but ऊपर जो first portion रहता है where you have to give the name of the related party and the relationship, वहाँ पे कहीं mention ही नहीं. Right? So some, like I said, these are mistakes where you feel that yeah, this was avoidable. So इतना बड़ा कोई है नहीं rocket science to correct these things, but then these are there which are being brought before you. Non-compliance relating to the KMP. तो जो चीफ ऑपरेटिंग ऑफिसर है उसको केएमपी रिपोर्ट किया है, बट जो सीईओ है उसको केएमपी नहीं दिखा है, राइट? सो अगेन दिस हैज बीन फाउंड दैट दिस इज टेक्निकली इनकरेक्ट. Again, related party transactions of similar nature along with the values thereof have been disclosed on an aggregate basis. मतलब टोटल का सबका करके समझिए रेम्युनरेशन है तो टोटल एक ही अमाउंट दिया है टू की मैनेजमेंट पर्सन, पर द रिक्वायरमेंट इफ इंडिविजुअली 10% से ज्यादा है तो नाम भी देने हैं. So let us say you have a 100 rupees of remuneration of which 50 goes to one और बाकी 50 है उसमें 10 जन, तो वो जो एक है बंदा उसका नाम के साथ आएगा 50 इसको दिया है, देन अदर्स में बाकी 50 आएगा. बट जहां पे भी इंडिविजुअली 10% से ज्यादा है वो पार्टी के नाम से आपको डिस्क्लोजर देना है इन द टेबल. इनकरेक्ट डिस्क्लोजर, तो ये सारे टर्मिनोलॉजी यूज होते हैं व्हिच इज नॉट देयर इन द स्टैंडर्ड. सो दीस आर ऑल सेल्फ क्रिएटेड, लाइक आई सेड लॉजिकली इंग्लिश टर्म लिखते हैं. सो कॉमन डायरेक्टर, affiliates, lesser. See, common director बहुत clearly लिखा है. Just because there are common directors, they are not related parties. So let us not be so safe कि कुछ भी वो लिख दे. We have to evaluate, and बहुत बार मैंने ऐसे भी देखा है कि दो लिस्ट बनाते हैं, एक AS 18 के बेसिस पे, एक 48 2B के बेसिस, फिर बोलते हैं जो भी है डाल दो, दोनों कॉमन, रिस्क नहीं लेना, राइट? That is not right. जो AS 18 के क्राइटेरिया है 48 2B दोनों डिफरेंट है. You have to report accordingly. So common director, affiliates, lesser, other related parties, जैसे generally लिख देते हैं other related parties, अभी क्या समझेंगे कौन है ये, right? So these are wrong. Non-disclosure of certain related parties, financial statements जो their subsidiaries है, कभी हम लोग जब वो investment schedule देखते हैं कि subsidiaries है, जब RPT में जाते हैं तो वहां पे कोई mention ही नहीं है. So you have to relate with the financial statements and the notes also. Again on RPT, following information from the notes से लिया है cash flow, directors report, corporate governance of different companies. Application money received from KMP for preferential allotment, conversion of again KMP, dividend paid to the holding company, loans and advances given or repaid by subsidiary company. Now ये सारे related party transactions है. They and though these transactions have been reported in various parts, RPT वाले जो disclosure है उसमें नहीं आते. कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस रिपोर्ट ये वो इधर उधर से सब मिलते हैं, बट वो आरपीटी के टेबल में ये कुछ नहीं मिलता. सो ऑल ट्रांजैक्शंस हैव विद रिलेटेड पार्टीज हैव टू बी डिस्क्लोज्ड. अंडर रिलेटेड पार्टी डिस्क्लोजर्स ओनली द वॉल्यूम ऑफ ट्रांजैक्शंस हैज बीन डिस्क्लोज्ड. उसके द अमाउंट्स आउटस्टैंडिंग नहीं दिखा है. अगेन इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग, ड्यूरिंग द ईयर ट्रांजैक्शंस दिखाते हैं, क्लोजिंग बैलेंस जो है वो नहीं दिखाते. छोटी छोटी चीजें है ना ये, इसमें रॉकेट साइंस तो है नहीं, बट इट्स आवर अंडरस्टैंडिंग व्हाट हैज टू बी डिस्क्लोज. और हमारे ऑफिस के टेम्पलेट्स ही होते हैं. अगर कभी ऐसा भी मैंने देखा है कि कोई क्लाइंट है जिसमें ड्यूरिंग द ईयर हुआ है और क्लोजिंग बैलेंस नहीं है तो नहीं दिखाया है, तो वही फॉलो होता है फिर सारे क्लाइंट्स फॉर्मेट. डिस्क्लोजर ऑफ टू रिलेटेड पार्टीज अंडर सिंगल कॉलम, तो होल्डिंग एंड सब्सिडरी एक ही कॉलम में आना है टेबल में. There has to be for each category, there has to be a different column. Leases, no disclosures are provided regarding leases. We already discussed on that. EPS. Again, some very small things that we want to share. Basic या diluted. खाली EPS लिखा है, earning per share. Basic है, diluted है, नहीं लिखा है. So the standard requires even if basic diluted same है, आपको दोनों दिखाना है. So there has to be two line items. We can't just do a summary assessment and say EPS वो सामने वाला समझ जाए. नहीं समझते हम लोग, नहीं समझते. वो स्टैंडर्ड में दो लिखा है तो दो देना. Share application money received pending allotment. This has an impact of a diluted EPS. अभी हम लोग सोच लेते हैं कि इसको तो अलॉट ही नहीं करना है, ये होगा वो होगा, अभी सामने पढ़ने वाले को नहीं पता चलता. So they have the impact of potentially diluting and therefore diluted EPS आपका आएगा. Share allotment money pending, share application money received pending allotment होगा तो diluted EPS में calculation में आएगा. both basic and diluted has been shown as the loss. तो अर्निंग मतलब एकदम वर्ड टू वर्ड नहीं लेना कि अर्निंग है तो प्रॉफिट में ही दिखाना है, वो एक टर्मिनोलॉजी है। तो लॉस है तो नेगेटिव ईपीएस है, बट इन दिस केस लॉस था वो नहीं करके खत्म कर दिया मैटर को, राइट। सो इन लॉसेस आल्सो दैट फॉर्मूला वुड स्टिल रन showing a negative ईपीएस। Was made with profit after tax inclusive of extraordinary items. So EPS standard very clearly says when you have to show before extraordinary and after extraordinary. मैं बोला ना ये rare cases होती है, that is where we actually need to pick up the book, open the standard and see what the requirement is. It cannot be a copy paste of all the other clients where such exceptional situations are not. EPA diluted का लिख दिया not applicable. ऐसा कुछ है ही नहीं, diluted दिखाना है. So diluted should be presented even when it is equal to the basic EPS. Outstanding equity shares during the year increase हुए, fresh shares were allotted during the year. जब कैलकुलेशन देखा तो वो क्लोजिंग बैलेंस एज एट जो था उसी पे ईपीएस का कैलकुलेशन हुआ था. There was no weighted average of the equity shares outstanding during the year that is done. Again the same copy paste formula, maybe I presume that, and that is why we have to see that whenever there is a change in the capital, otherwise than by bonus shares, because bonus shares में तो आपके previous year को भी आपको restate करना है EPS को, और जब during the year issue करते हैं तब weighted average number of equity shares करके basic and diluted आपको close करना है. 22 accounting for taxes on income. Companies, certain companies do not disclose the breakup of deferred tax asset liability. This is a disclosure requirement which is there. So please ensure that in all cases, even in the non-corporates also, that breakup of the deferred tax is there. Policy में deferred tax liability and asset are recognized subject to consideration of prudence on timing differences. So deferred tax किया है recognize, but reasonable certainty with sufficient future taxable income है कि नहीं वो policy से नहीं पता चल रहा है. मतलब ऐसे ही उन्होंने accounting कर दिया क्या? That was the question that has come, and therefore technically this policy is incorrect. Carry forward losses, तो इसमें भी policy में ऐसा दिया है. Management is of the opinion that sufficient future taxable income will be available against which such deferred tax asset will be realized. Right, so it has not been stated as to whether there is virtual certainty supported by convincing evidence that such income will be available. Management ने बोल दिया, सोच लिया, कर दिया, that is not. There are certain procedures as per the standard that has to be done, and which has to come out in by way of the policy also, that virtual certainty is there, which is supported by convincing evidence. So ये disclosure है deferred tax के. Some have shown as part of loan funds, some shows after the head current net current assets. कहीं पे application of funds के deduction में shareholder fund अलग-अलग सब है. So actual requirement is to show on the face of the balance sheet separately under the head, means after the head unsecured loans. अगर asset है तो investments के बाद में face of the balance sheet में deferred tax liabilities and assets respectively asset disclose करना है, not randomly as has been observed by the board. AS 26 deferred revenue expenses. The company expenditure incurred again. See ये हम लोग का पहले चलता था. Company incorporation deferred revenue over 5 years we used to do. Now अगर AS 26 में कुछ नहीं है. Everything is to be charged off to P&L. So ये वाले policy में ऐसा था expenditure incurred on factory license fees, trademark fee, seed marketing expenses, public issue, ये वो then has been treated as deferred revenue expenditure. So as per AS 26, this is all, these do not meet. So this cannot be considered to be a resource being controlled by the enterprise, क्योंकि already खर्चा वर्चा सब हो गया है, कोई control अभी है ही नहीं मेरा, and hence such expenses do not meet the criteria of the term assets. So these cannot be capitalized. Accounting policy technical know-how is amortized over the useful life of the underlying plant, amortized on a straight line basis. So इसमें there are 3 things that we have to see, right? For the know-how, it is important that useful life of the underlying asset, खुद का useful life of the underlying asset or 10 years. ये तीनों में से जो भी कम है उस पीरियड पे इसको अमोर्टाइज हो, right? So that is what is not coming in the policy. So policy is wrong. See, many times policy comes, what is being accounted, वही पॉलिसी में आता है. तो जब भी हम लोग देखते हैं तो अगर पॉलिसी गलत है तो डाउट आता है कि अकाउंटिंग भी गलत है क्या, and which would impact the true and fair. मतलब ऐसा नहीं करना है कि अकाउंटिंग कुछ भी हो पॉलिसी से ही लिखना है. At least money निकल जाए. So the accounting policy on R&D states that expenditure on proposed projects has been accrued is amortized over a period of 5 years. Again, research development we all know criteria are different. Research को P&L में जाना है. Development is what can be capitalized. So there was no mention in the policy कि भाई research cost क्या है, development cost क्या है, क्या capitalize हो रहा है. Nothing was mentioned. बस प्रोजेक्ट है उसको 5 years पे अमोर्टाइज कर दिया. So again this was wrong. Cost of right of way for laying pipelines, again period जो है indefinite period करके छोड़ दिया है इसको, which is technically wrong. Maximum period is given is 10 years for an intangible asset, and so that compliance was not done in this particular case. Interest in joint ventures, I don't think I can skip that. Provision, Haji.
Very about case 26 for intention.
हाँ.
Patent and trademarks, we can cover in that. And if for the patents, we have got 20 years, period, so we can consider 20 years as a transition. Just mention 10 years.
10, see, AS 26 में 10 years का cap है.
For patents, if we have a license or some patents and trademarks, they are saying it is valid for 20 years. Should be for 20 years, amortization.
10 years.
10 years also.
उसमें it is like a rebuttable presumption that 10 years ही इसका life रहेगा maximum. So I think under Ind AS there is no such cap of 10 years, but under AS we still have that cap of 10 years.
Very patent license or trademark, it is mentioned 20, we should put it 10.
10, yes. So AS 29 claims against the company not acknowledges that amount दिया है, but अभी इसका details नहीं किया है. Description of the nature of that contingent liability, about what is this claim against the company which has not been acknowledged as debt, उसका कोई detail में mention नहीं किया है. So that is the non-compliance that was observed. Company does not provide for interest on the ground that they are anticipating favorable outcome in respect of ongoing negotiations with the bankers for one-time settlement. So interest provide नहीं किया है. So again, that is not in line with the requirements. वो फिर आपको provide तो करना ही है. बाद में अगर वो settlement जो भी होता है आप adjust करके P&L में ले जाओ, income में if there is a favorable, it's fine. But on the presumption के favorable होगा and I'm not providing, that is not right. That have to be provided for. एक जन ने मेरे को ऐसा बोला कि सर वो तो बैंक ने NPA कर दिया है, बैंक भी तो प्रोवाइड नहीं करता है, तो हम भी नहीं करेंगे. और ऐसा नहीं होता है. बैंक का अकाउंटिंग अलग है, हमारा अकाउंटिंग अलग है. वी हैव टू फॉलो दी स्टैंडर्ड्स एंड यू विल हैव टू प्रोवाइड फॉर. मतलब कभी बहुत क्रिएटिव आर्गुमेंट्स आते हैं, हमको भी सोचना पड़ता है कि भाई क्या है अभी इसको, यू नो व्हेन इट सडनली कम्स अप. हाँ बट अभी उसको क्या बैंक का अभी वो तो जो देखते हैं उनको वो मैनेजर उसको स्टेटमेंट में नहीं दिखता है ना, तो मतलब नहीं करते. वो कहाँ जाता है क्या है?
वो कहाँ से लाएंगे?
हाँ
एग्जैक्ट फिगर इंश्योरेंस का
नॉर्मल सी वो तो वर्किंग अभी प्रोडक्ट डेली प्रोडक्ट बेसिस है, ऑन दैट बेसिस यू कैन कैलकुलेट.
तो बिल्कुल पैनल इंश्योरेंस वगैरह भी बैंक लगाती है, गारंटी वगैरह है तो अपने पास में.
हाँ तो एस्टिमेट करके ले लेने का. So see all those things would be forming part of the sanction itself. Sanction letter में जो भी है उसके basis पे you can consider and do that product basis and calculate that. So moving on, no disclosure under the note on contingent liability. Static provision ऐसा लिखा हुआ है financials में. There is no disclosure under the note on contingent liability. Further, adequate provisions have been made for all known liabilities except income tax. भी क्या समझने का? क्या इनकम टैक्स का किया ही नहीं है कुछ, डिस्क्लोजर प्रोविजन कुछ भी. पढ़ने से तो वही समझ में आता है. That is what it is, that such disclosure gives the impression that liability for income tax is a known liability but has not been provided for. तो ये गलत, इंग्लिश गलत है, राइट? Capital goods, provision for extensive provision for capital goods have been shown as a note on other provisions. Again, I have been saying this maybe everywhere, here also. Please, there is a difference between provision and approval, liability. वो ट्रायल बैलेंस में जहां पे भी प्रोविजन लेजर होता है प्रोविजन में डाल provision for audit fees is a provision for electricity expense is a provision for telephone is a provision. They are all liabilities, approvals. AS 29 was clearly. So please ensure that you do the correct classification. This being a case for that, that's why we brought it up that the provisions for expense and provisions are more of nature of liabilities or approval, not provisions. Because if they are see provisions का सबसे पहला I would say some of use of phrase where there is a high degree of estimation which is required. That is the main thing, differentiating factor between a provision and a liability. अभी warranties somebody mentioned, right? Provision for warranties because उसका कोई thumb rule approval नहीं है, वो past tense के क्या है क्या नहीं, कोई estimate आपको करते हैं provision. Second thing is provision जो भी आता है उसका आपको movement disclose करना है. Opening क्या था? Added मतलब further provision during the year, utilized, reversed and closing. तो provision में amount सब डाल देते हैं फिर disclosure नहीं करते. Because they are not actual provisions, they are liabilities. So please ensure that जो liabilities और ये AS 29 में आप पढ़ेंगे बहुत अच्छा पैरा दिया है where they mentioned about this differentiation between approval and provision. So please ensure approvals are approvals and they don't get classified as a provision. So क्या सब खुश मजा बट ये एक ही पूरा हुआ है बैंक गारंटी हाई कोर्ट
Want some keep spending in the bank. I could have ordered them to give the bank guarantee in the event of loss of that case, and they will have to cash it. So that will be audience liability.
So you have to see that whether the basic amount has been provided for. समझिए जो भी मैटर चल रहा है. I'm just putting a number कि समझिए 1 करोड़ का उसका liability या demand है. उसके सामने हाई कोर्ट ने बोला 1 करोड़ का गारंटी है. तो अभी 1 करोड़ बेसिस AS 29 हम लोग जो बोलते हैं ना पॉसिबल रिमोट वो क्लासिफिकेशन के बेसिस पे whether they have provided for. If they have provided for, then the guarantee would not come as a contingent liability. It is already there. If no provision has been made, then definitely it would come as a contingent liability. Because on the happening or not happening of the event of order आएगा, तब ये this may get encashed or this may come as an expenditure. But already provide कर दिया तब नहीं आएगा. Provision में you can add a note that against this the guarantee has been given, but ये provision already हो गया.
And the guarantee will be actually taken from the bank. Bank is asked us to give a fixed deposit of that amount.
तो वो FD under लिया आएगा. And it will not be considered as a cash and cash balance, cash and bank balance.
So it will not be part of cash and bank.
No, because it is not liquid, ना वो earmarked है.
So that will be where will be showing our.
It will come in your other current assets or other bank, other cash and bank balances. So you have a cash and bank balance. अगर आप देखेंगे जो schedule 3 का format है, उसमें ये सब liquid वाले आते हैं. And normally all these lien उसी में आता है where you specifically say lien mark. But when you consider for cash flow में ये नहीं आएगा because these are lien mark, these are earmark. तो सब लोग बैठ गए यहाँ पे मेरे लिए. Indicate that I have to end अभी सबको. तो but I see honestly I think that liberty maybe family. I can take that liberty, but one or two things are before. थोड़ा critical है, नहीं थोड़ा critical है because I don't know ये part 2 जो है आपका इस season में होगा कि नहीं, but that is why I am taking this liberty of ऊपर शायरी भी बाकी है. Quickly
go through this because this is something which impacts our reporting. Right? There is another, like I said, on Schedule 3 and other provisions of Companies Act, which you can do it of your own. But here, important aspects I'll just quickly cover. जो है, external confirmation note regarding MSME. This has been relied upon by auditors. Suicide. आपने क्या किया? नहीं चलेगा. ऐसे words, phrases बिल्कुल नहीं चलेंगे.
Confirmation process के लिए कैसे?
हाँ वही ऐसा कई फाइनेंशियल्स में दिस हैज बीन रिलाइड अपॉन. आपको यार इन्वेंटरीज में भी लिखते थे एज सर्टिफाइड बाय द मैनेजमेंट. वो तो बहुत क्लियरली आ गया. तो सब फिर भी कभी कभी आता है. राइट? कुछ नहीं चलेगा. आपको आपके प्रोसेसेस करने हैं. फ्रॉम द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स यू कैन नॉट गिव एन इंडिकेशन. सो इसमें ऐसा होगा. ऑडिट ने प्रोसेस भी किए बट बाय हैबिट तो हम लिख देते हैं ये तो मैनेजमेंट करेगा. नहीं चलेगा. बिल्कुल नहीं चलेगा. Right? Related party relationship as certified by the company and relied upon by auditors. समझ गए? Exactly. Incomplete reporting था. मतलब IFC का वो नहीं लिखा था. फिर opinion. हाँ. A great case for copy paste from TCS. सिर्फ ऐसे ही नाम लिखा. So auditors report opinion paragraph and report on the refers to statement of changes in equity जब financial statements IGAAP के. सोसी जो है वो तो इंडेस का ही है. उसी का बेरी है. IGAAP में कुछ है ही नहीं उसका रेलेवेंस. अब पता चला. हाँ इतना भी ब्लाइंडली नहीं रहना है हमको कि कैन छोड़ देते हैं. हाँ सो मॉडिफाइड ओपिनियन देना है. The flow of the audit report from the flow you can see, but जो auditor's responsibility पहला है. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis of our audit opinion on the financial statements. तो यहाँ पे audit opinion की जगह पे qualified या adverse use करना चाहिए. Opinion paragraph में भी write adverse or qualified whatever, but अंदर भी जहाँ है we have to make those changes. Like I said, ये अपने 100 साइन करेंगे एक या दो में ही आएगा अगर आएगा तो. And that is where we need to spend more time to see that technically correct we are for each and every aspect that is there. क्योंकि हर एक में तो मॉडिफिकेशन आता नहीं है. हम वो सैंपल यूज कर लेंगे. Emphasis of matter. Emphasis of matter very clearly mentions the standard कि आप जो EOM में दे रहे हो. EOM में क्या आता है? सबसे पहले तो जो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में दिया है and as an auditor you want to highlight that will come as a EOM. So EOM cannot come without the reference of the note number, para number, whatever which is there in the financial statements. It cannot be hanging by itself. It has to get connected with that note and that has to be mentioned. So in this case no reference of matter in the financial statements has been provided. Other matters. So other matters में reverse है. कोई financial statement से link नहीं. Right? But where there is a change of auditor, other matters में आपको देना ही है that the previous year's audit was done by an independent analyst. Whatever it is, the language एक है, वो आपको देना ही है where you have not audited the previous year's financial statements. कितने लोग देते हैं यहाँ पे? स्टार्ट कर दीजिएगा. मतलब ऐसा नहीं है देने के लिए आप ऑडिट लेने दो किसी और से. बट जहाँ पे आपको आता है please ensure that in the auditor's report other matters you start mentioning this. It is a mandatory requirement, right? हाँ ये भी classic example of copy paste. Company's board of directors is responsible. The other information comprises information in the board's report, corporate governance, and the business responsibility report, but does not include business. We use the business responsibility thing.
Okay. Faithful के लिए
तो एप्लीकेबल नहीं था तो कंपनी ने ही नहीं दिया, बट ये ऑडिटर ने कॉपी पेस्ट करके डाल दिया, वो जहां से कॉपी किया होगा वहां आता होगा बिजनेस रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, पड़ा नहीं तो वो छप गया। हाँ, कारों में कंपनी हैज मेंटेन रीजनेबल रिकॉर्ड्स, ये क्या होता है? नहीं चलेगा। कंपनी जनरली मेंटेन प्रॉपर रिकॉर्ड्स, ये फैक्चुअल रिपोर्टिंग है कारों में। इवन I cannot do anything as a FRRB chair अगर ऐसे रिपोर्ट्स, बहुत क्लियर। ये जनरली मेंटेन क्या है, आपको काम ही तो दिया है चेक करने का। अगर आप डिसाइड नहीं कर पाएंगे तो कौन करेगा कि मेंटेन किया है कि नहीं किया, राइट? ऐसा बोल तो नहीं चलेगा कुछ। हम लोग गुजराती में बोलते हैं दूध मन देगा भाई को पकड़ा, ऐसा नहीं चलेगा ये। अभी ये होगा as explained to us, we are informed that no material disturbance is allowed. We have been informed that no material disturbance. According to the information and explanation given to us and certified to us, as informed to us, as informed. तो आप क्या करें? See, if you want, I will tell you, you have to further emphasize that you can say according to the information and explanation given to us, and as per the audit procedures conducted by us, then you say, आपको तो ओनरशिप लेना पड़ेगा ना, आपका रिपोर्ट है, इसमें मैनेजमेंट का तो कोई रोल ही नहीं है, मैनेजमेंट का साइन भी नहीं आता है, तो ये सब नहीं चलेगा। You can't pass the buck. You have to take the responsibility. हाँ, ये तो था मजेदार। Inventories have been physically verified by the manager according to the information given to us, no discrepancies for on physical. तो आपने क्या किया? तो मैनेजमेंट तो वही बोलेगा ना, कुछ नहीं मिलता। तो आपका रोल क्या है? At reasonable interval during the year, wherever possible and required. According to the information given to us, borrowers are regular. Verify करो ना, regular है कि नहीं? You can't go on the information provided. Again on the loans वाला जो है, so यहाँ पे अगर आप देखेंगे company has complied with the rules 185 in respect of making investments, एकदम specific making investments. तो ये पार्टी का कौन रिपोर्टिंग करेगा? Loans given, guarantee, security, तो पूरा पैकेज है ना रिपोर्टिंग का। You can't just take one option, तो है ही नहीं, सबका रिपोर्टिंग करना है। Company has not made any loans and guarantees or security to person this and 185 is not applicable. कंपनी नोट्स में दिख रहा था लोन दिया है फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स, बट यहाँ पे लिख रहा है हैज नॉट मेड एनी लोन्स और गारंटी। तो ये जो डिस्क्लोजर है अगेन कैन बी अ पॉसिबल कॉपी पेस्ट थिंग, बट यू हैव टू सी अगर नोट्स में लोन दिया है तो आपके कारों में भी वो आना चाहिए। ऑडिटर रिपोर्ट ऑन 186 हैज बीन कंप्लाइड, however company has provided interest-free loans to its holding company which is non-compliance of 186. Again wrong reporting by the auditor. Based on the information given to us, being an infra company, 186 is not applicable. बहुत important है ये. It is only 180, so requirement of 186(1) is applicable to infra company और 186(1) पे reporting होना चाहिए. That's very clear because हम लोग general करके छोड़ देते हैं 186 का. Not accepted deposits from the however, temporary loans have been taken from employee welfare trust without adequate records. ऐसा ऑडिटर ने रिपोर्ट किया, बट वो डिपॉजिट है नहीं है, सी वो इवैल्यूएट करके यू विल हैव टू शो अ कंप्लीट रिपोर्टिंग ऑफ द फैक्ट्स। ये भी ऐसा ही है। Mid cost record, as explained to us, such records are at the advanced stage of preparation. तो दो प्रॉब्लम, as explained to us and advanced stage of preparation. Right, that whole statement is incorrect. इससे भी the problem, I'll tell you कितना बड़ा problem कि यहाँ पे there are 8 to 10 laws that have been given. The auditor has reported only a few of them अभी जैसे यहाँ पे omitted to comment on custom duty, excise duty cess. तो वो आपको कारों में देखना पड़ेगा एग्जैक्ट जो रिपोर्टिंग रिक्वायरमेंट्स है एंड योर रिस्पॉन्स टू दैट इट हैज टू बी कंप्लीट इन ऑल एस्पेक्ट. Outstanding statutory dues, but he has not reported the period to which such dues relate. तो वो टेबल दिया है गाइडेंस नोट में, we have to follow that table and give all the disclosures that are required. Material dues again the same thing. In another case, the auditor is obligated to report the period. और first वाले में that there were from the contingent liabilities and you can make out that there are dues which are there, but it was not getting reflected in the disclosure. On the ninth clause, reporting the auditor only reported non-default of loans taken from government and dues to debenture holders. Right, there were other loans also which were there and also reported of certain banks without providing adequate details. So again, the same thing, it has to be complete, the reporting on cargo. और ये हम लोग सब देखते हैं, detail each and every element. The company did not raise any money by way of IPO or foreign and term loan. ऐसा report किया है. But when we went to the cash flow statement, तो cash flow statement में note on there was proceeds from long term borrowings. So गलत हो गया ना reporting. According to the fraud वाला has been noticed or reported during the course of audit, but also we have it is reported during the year. Right, during the course of the audit के साथ during the year is also important. Related parties 177, 188 and details have been disclosed as required by the applicable accounting standards. Company has not entered into related party transactions. In the first case, as informed by management, वो गलत है. Second case, reporting done by the auditor is not correct. So notes to accounts में related party transactions है, जबकि यहाँ पे कारों में they are saying there are no related party transactions. So ये मेरे को actually this I wanted to show you as explained और ये वो सब जो इधर उधर लिखते हैं ना वो नहीं चलेगा. We'll have to improve and show whatever is the reality. So thanks friends. I know it's been a long session and anything on accounts audit it's a bit difficult to sit through such long sessions. But I presume that the efforts all of us have taken it would get reflected, it would be very clearly shown in the financial statements that we sign off for March 25 to ensure कि अगर FRRB या कोई भी review करता है तो ये सारे जो errors है या mistakes है that would not be in the financial statements that you all sign off. Once again, thanks to the GB Nagar Study Circle for inviting me, giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts with all of you. Thank you very much.
Leader of also and I request
वोट ऑफ थैंक देने की जरूरत है अभी. Okay, friends, I will give formal vote of thanks. Friends, we are privileged to have an opportunity to have a session on AQMM, an essential framework that enhances the quality and consistency of audit methodologies. Understanding its application is crucial for maintaining the integrity of the financial reporting and ensuring that the audit meets the high standards. Equally important was a discussion on the prevalent non-compliance issues in the financial statements. Addressing these issues requires a commitment to robust internal controls, regular training, adherence to established accounting standards, implementing clear policies, conducting regular audit, and fostering a culture of accountability as pivotal step in mitigating non-compliance risk. We are grateful to our speaker for sharing his expertise and insight. We have enriched our understanding of these critical topics. Your contributions are invaluable in our collective pursuit of excellence in the financial reporting and auditing. We hope that the knowledge gained today will empower all of us to implement best practices in our respective roles, ensuring transparency and integrity in the financial statements. Sir, thank you once again for the session and support. We look forward to your continued involvement in future. So please join me with a lot of love.
Yes, sir, you know, next Sunday, coming Sunday, and sir, then